there will be baseball in the not-too-distant future.
That's a funny thing here. I mentioned how yesterday we played in Chandler, just a couple miles away, and the Giants were rained out in Scottsdale. And here they say it's pouring down rain over in Scottsdale, and here we're about to play in Mesa. I guess this is a kind of a city you never know what the weather's going to be, much like Chicago. If you don't like the weather, wait a minute, it'll change.
I think the ground crew's done a very good job. The last time we took a look at that infield when it was raining, the infield was just a sea of mud, and right now the infield, at least the dirt part of it, looks very good. They have obliterated the baselines, but it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of mud out there. We know the outfield is going to be wet, and so the outfielder is going to have to beware. We won't get quite as good a jump as normal in the outfield, but the two pitchers are starting to get loose, and the Cubs, I know, for one, are happy to get into work. As we mentioned before, if you were with us, this is the day, at least after the games today, they're going to make a cut down, and it's going to be between 12 and 15 players. So this becomes a very important day for many of the youngsters here, and a few of the guys who are in the lineup for the Cubs today, if it is their last chance to show what they can do, would like to show Tom Trebelhorn and Larry Himes that if they're not going to take them at least when the season starts, they're only a phone call away at AAA.
You know, we've been talking about players. I'd like to talk for a moment about the real unsung hero of this game of baseball. Take a look at these fans. They've been sitting out here, standing out here, getting drenched by the rains. They have no place for shelter, no cover all over them. And here they are. Look at it. It's still a capacity crowd. And these people have been waiting patiently. It's now what? It's now about 2:30. This game was scheduled to start at 1 o'clock. That's an hour and a half delay. Nobody complaining. Nobody squawking. Everybody drenched with rain. And still, they can't wait for the game to start. And this is why these bearers of gloom and doom about baseball can just forget it. This is America's game. It always will be. Every one of these people, as a youngster, wanted to be a major league ball player. Now they're able to watch a game as an oldster, bring their kids along. And even no greater a star, perhaps the greatest athlete of our time, Michael Jordan, going through that same experience after having become the greatest basketball player in the history of this country, and maybe the greatest basketball player we'll ever had. He retired at age 31. Can't forget his ambition as a kid to be a major league ball player. And that's why he's down with the White Sox in Sarasota. And that's the kind of Bullinger's getting ready. He's going to start this game. That's a twist.
You wait about 5 minutes, I'll be over there.
We are just informed that the game will start in about 15 minutes. So while we catch the changes in these lineups, we're going to return you to the studios of WGN TV, where they will keep you informed and entertained for the next 15 minutes. Bye-bye. And we have a change in the lineups. So let's go into the lineups first of all. For the Rockies, and the Cubs are out in the outfield running back and forth now. The Rocky lineup: Eric Young is in left field. Joe Girardi is the catcher. Chris Jones is in center field. Webster Garrison is at third base. Ty Van Berlio is at first base. Mike Kingery is in right field. Jason Bates at third base. Vinny Castillo is the shortstop. And on the mound, thought by many of the Rockies to be their best pitcher, Armando Reynoso. Mountain Dew will bring you now the placing of the Cubs defense, which is as follows. Coming up in a moment. With the compliments of Mountain Dew, Timmons is in left. Wilson in center. Sosa in right. Hernandez at third base. Chris Peterson playing short. Sandberg at second. Grant Brown, a good-looking young ball player at first base. Mike Anderson pitching. And Mark Parent, a veteran, vying for the number 2 catching job. Of course, Rick Wilkins is a cinch, and the hope is they'll be able to catch 130. So 140 games for the Cubs this year. They're all doing some calisthenics out there in the outfield, and I imagine that's something you're doing a lot of.
Well, certainly, Harry, they want to make sure that everybody gets loosened up because, as we talked about before, although the infield looks to be in pretty good shape, the outfield, which of course does not have a tarp, is going to be wet, and they want to make sure that everybody comes out of this game healthy, which is the #1 goal at this point. You're getting close enough toward the end of spring that everybody's interested in the health of all of their players, and you don't want to see anybody wind up with a season-ending injury, especially in a day when the field is not going to be 100%. And I'm sure they feel that if the field was dangerous at all, they wouldn't let this game go on. So I think the field's going to be in pretty decent shape because, as we talked about many times, they don't get a lot of rain here. The ground is pretty hard and will soak up a whole lot of rain, and it probably rained about a ½ an inch, maybe a little more than that.
Yeah, the field does look in great shape right now. I don't know whether just the drainage or the fact that it's always so dry out here. The rain is appreciated so far as wetting the grass a little bit. There's Derek May next to Jose Guzman. We haven't seen Derek in a game yet this spring. Guzman, of course, seems ready for a good year. The umpires, by the way, are Mike Winters behind the plate.
Good afternoon.
Dano Demuth at first. And Kerwin Danley is the third umpire. Well, they're making the announcement to the crowd, and boy, I can't get over it. It doesn't seem like more than 50 people have left the premises. They've waited around for 2 hours practically, and they're happy now that the game is going to start. These are the kind of fans that Bill Beck always used to rave about so much while he was alive and owning ball clubs as only he could.
First one visiting Rockies, and announced by their manager, Don Baylor.
Don Baylor almost forgot that he's the manager of the Rockies. They had such a sensational year. Just think of it. They almost drew 5 million people. And the other team new in baseball, Florida Marlins, they drew 3.5 million people. Now, in both cases, there was a lot of suspicion as to whether the weather would enable baseball to be played consistently. Well, those attendance figures prove that it certainly did in Colorado, and it certainly did in Florida. And maybe some of the teams are constantly crying about the fact that they can't compete with the other teams in baseball because they come from smaller regions where the fans don't support them as well. Maybe the thing to do is maybe there are a lot of towns like Phoenix. I imagine a Major League Baseball team right here would draw many more people than some of the long Major League clubs in either league have done before.
Well, they already have the plans on the drawing board. They've already okayed the tax here, Harry, that will pay for the new stadium. And the only thing that has to happen now is for Major League Baseball, who does have an expansion committee, to consider Phoenix as that new expansion team. I know that everybody here around the Phoenix area is very excited about the possibility of getting Major League Baseball here. The baseball stadium they're talking about has a retractable dome, very similar to the Toronto Stadium, and they're going to have natural grass, so it's going to be a beautiful facility. I've seen some of the drawings of it, and I know if they are awarded a franchise, I think they're going to be greeted with great enthusiasm here in Phoenix. This place is ready for a Major League team. They certainly support their sons very well. They had a hockey series here where they brought in 4 NHL games and supported the 4 games to the tune of 15,000 fans a game. So this is becoming quite a sports city, and everybody's very excited about getting Buddy Ryan as the new head football coach of what's going to be known as the Arizona Cardinals.
And there's no doubt about that at all, that this is a Major League market. The population in this area is around 3 million people. You know, there's Phoenix and there's Mesa and there's Tempe. And there's just the Sun City and there's Peoria, a lot of suburbs that make up a lot of people, in excess of 3 million people in the Phoenix area. So I'm sure the day will soon come that they'll have a Major League Ball club here. Well, we'll be back with baseball now following these messages. Well, we're about ready to start this ball game after a 2-hour delay. By the way, Al Goldus and Larry Himes have a good friend, Tom Calvano, a great baseball scout who's recovering from an operation, and they want to pass along their good wishes and hope for a speedy recovery from Al Goldus and Larry Himes to Tom Calvano, a well-known baseball scout.
This game today is going to be a split squad game for both of these teams. So if you don't see a couple of your favorite players, you have to realize that they're playing at other venues. And that's really become the norm here in the spring training of the 90s. In order to get more work in, because you're bringing more and more guys to spring training, they have what they call split squad games, and where you're getting a chance for more guys to get more at-bats and more innings pitched than you normally would. They used to have what they called B games at 10 o'clock in the morning, and a lot of guys kind of objected to that, but now they use the split squad games, both of them starting at 1 o'clock, and you really get a chance to evaluate much more of your talent, and fewer mistakes are made out of spring training, or at least we hope that fewer mistakes will be made out of spring training, because Harry, I think you'll agree that more mistakes probably in talent evaluation are made in spring training than any other time because of the difference in the climate here in Arizona or Florida than what you'll encounter when you go back east, some of the cold weather climates.
I think that is true. That it questions the judgment of general managers and field managers more during spring training and more during the last month of the season when these minor leaguers come up, because it isn't a true perspective. What they do doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're going to be able to do. They're like a flash in the pan sometimes. It's happened to every ball club. You know about your split squad. I think it's unfortunate, though, in a way. I think they ought to advertise which players are going to be playing with one squad or another squad. I think the fans who pay major league prices to see these games and then get to the ballpark and find out that Mark Grace and Ryan Sandberg and Sean Dunson are playing somewhere else, it almost is misrepresenting what they should be able to see. Now our national anthem.
I was going to welcome all our people from the northern land to our sunny Arizona, but we had a little pause there. It is spring, so...
Well, there you take a look at Mo Drabowski, the Cubs' brand new pitching coach, and Mo is getting rave reviews. He's a man who truly understands.
We're about ready to play baseball. The only thing missing right now are the umpires. I haven't seen them come out yet. I guess they're waiting for a certain time. The Cubs are throwing the ball around out in the outfield, and I would imagine that outfield is much wetter, more wet than the infield, which looks in exceptional good condition. Here they are. Here are the umpires. And they wade through the mud getting up to home plate. You know, I started to say about these split squads, it seems unfair that fans don't get to see the heart and soul of the ball club that they're buying tickets to see. And it seems to me a more fair way to do it would be to make one split squad a game that they see for free, and then the other game where most of the regulars are playing, they would pay for. So then nobody would have a squawk coming, because they would know who's not going to play and who is going to play at the two games. But be that as it may, it's been going on for a long time. Spring arrived at 2:28 p.m. Central Time today. And I understand another earthquake has hit California. Is that right? A 5 rating. I don't think it hit anywhere near Palm Springs, though, thank goodness. Boy, they've had some winter in California. Between the earthquakes and the rains and the mudslides, maybe a tough time.
University of Arizona, 71. Virginia, 58.
Arizona walloped Virginia 71-58 in the college basketball tournament. Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers advanced to Sweet 16, and we'll give you other scores as we go along.
Starting pitcher today is Mike Anderson, and he was traded to the Cubs along with Darren Cox and Larry Lubers for Chuck McElroy. That coming on the 10th of December of last year in what could turn out to be a pretty good trade for both teams. As you know, McElroy had some problems getting the ball over the plate with the Cubs, but he's still got a fine arm and might help Cincinnati. And Mike Anderson has been one of the surprises for the Cubs. He's a man given very little chance to make this team, but has thrown the ball very well after going 10-6 last year at Indianapolis. He had a brief trial with the Reds and wasn't too impressive in 3 games, but he has impressed Mo Drabowski, and Mo feels that he's got a legitimate shot to make it in the bullpen for the Cubs. So this becomes a very big outing for young Mike Anderson, who is 6'3", turns 28 on July 30th, and pretty good sized right-handed pitcher.
Yeah, Steve, I'm looking down at Gordy Goldsberry, who now scouts for the Baltimore Orioles, who, by the way, many people think may be the American League champion this year. A lot of people are picking up the win in their division and then go on and win the playoff. That's a club that Roland Heeman's the general manager of. But looking down at Goldsberry, who with Dallas Green moved in to take over the Cubs about 10 years ago. And Gordy under Dallas, who won the first playoff in '84, and then also in '89. Gordy had a pretty good farm system going. As a matter of fact, all those fellows who are contributing to the Cubs now all came up through the Green Goldsberry regime. And one wonders, as I look down at them, what the future of the Cubs would have been, not if both men had stayed, because apparently Dallas Green, it was a matter where they just couldn't see eye to eye, and he walked out. But Gordy Goldsberry stayed on and wanted to stay on, and Jim Fry, who succeeded Dallas Green, replaced Gordy Goldsberry with somebody else, and the farm system then went in a thorough decline until Larry Hines, and now Goldust took over a short 2 years ago. Goldsberry, an outstanding baseball man and judge of talent. Well, everybody's ready to go. The fans are going to see the baseball they expected to see. Mike Anderson's getting the start. It's been delayed 2 hours. It's getting a little cooler here also.
And the man behind the plate today is Mark Parent, and he's also been a surprise. You might remember Parent for his time with the San Diego Padres. He's a big man at 6'5". He weighs about 240 pounds, and he's a man that looks like he has the inside track at being the backup catcher to Rick Wilkins. When you have a catcher like Wilkins, you expect him to play 140, 145 games, so Parent is not going to get in a lot of play. But he's hitting .368 this spring. He's shown some power. He's hit a home run. He's driven in 7 runs. And he certainly gives you a very good target behind the plate because of his great size. And so the Cubs, who came into spring training looking for a backup to Rick Wilkins, preferably a right-hand hitting backup, might have found him in Mark Parent.
And Anderson, who used to be in the Cincinnati organization, a 10-game winner last year at Indianapolis, will be facing Eric Young. Eric, a speedy infielder, outfielder playing left field today. The game's been delayed 2 hours.
You're going to see a good curveball and a good slider from Mike Anderson. In fact, talking with Mo Drabowski about Anderson, he said that his breaking ball is probably his most impressive pitch. He does have a good fastball, although it's not consistently overpowering. I asked him which of his pitches is better, because very few pitchers throw the curveball and the slider and throw them at the same time with equal effectiveness. But he said that Anderson has the ability to do that, and from what he's shown this spring, he can get them both over the plate. So a very big outing for a young man who's trying to find a spot on the Cubs roster.
He saw me from here.
And again, I want to wish a quick recovery to Ben Stein at Thoric Hospital and Eli Sargent, a great friend of Yosh Kawano, who used to help Yosh with the clubhouse work. He's recuperating too, and he'll soon be back at work. Eric Young. That counts. Even up now, 1-1. Young, lightning fast. He played second base, and now they're using him in left field. High fly ball. Deep right center. And it's caught by Sammy Sosa. It looked like
That's caught by Willie Wilson.
Willie Wilson, yeah. I thought he caught it because he crossed in front of Sammy. And he decoyed Sammy and the fans by holding the ball at his side. He made the catch easily.
Well, fortunately, we had no collision, and as you know, the center fielder is the captain out there, so as soon as Willie Wilson says, "I got it," Sammy Sosa has to give some ground.
Joe Girardi, former Cub. Fastball low. Sarah Davis of Lincolnwood, Illinois, and her niece from Palatine, Debbie Ismail, are here today. Girardi installed as the #1 catcher for the Colorado Rockies. There's a strike call.
Injuries limited Joe to only 86 games last year, but he did hit .290. And he thinks the injuries are behind him, and he's looking for a big year this year.
Ground ball, sharply hit. Up with it, Hernandez, two away. Anderson has pitched well all spring long. And he may be closer to winning a spot on this staff than he realizes.
Ellis Burks was supposed to play today and hit in the #3 spot, but with the outfield the way it is, Don Baylor didn't want to gamble on Ellis Burks, who's a big part of this team, signing as a free agent, and Ellis is getting the day off.
Ellis, a fine ball player and a fine young man. Played with the White Sox last year, known with the Red Sox for a number of years before. 2 out, nobody on. That one bounces in front of the plate. Nice pickup by Parents. Chris Jones, the hitter. There's a pitch a little bit low, breaking ball. You know, Ben Stein, being in a hospital is new. I mean, Ben's such a live wire, and I know it's tough for him to stay in the hospital for the number of days he's been there, and hopefully he'll be out very, very shortly. Here's a high foul ball into the stand. Hey, the scoreboard's working. See, you join us in scoreboard work. First time all spring.
You can't beat that. It's a lot easier to figure out what's going on if it's flashed up on the board. And as you can see, Anderson is well on his way to getting through a 1-2-3 inning.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. And let me tell you, a little bit high. Not too many pitchers have pitched too many 1-2-3 innings yet this spring.
All over the Cactus League. This has been a run-scoring spring training.
3-2 pitch. High, ball 4. Jones walks, and there's Webster Garrison, who was substituted for Charlie Hayes when the rains came.
Garrison's been around a long time, starting his career in 1984 at Florence. He was a member of the Oakland A's last year, playing at Tacoma, where he hit .303. Doesn't have much power, but does have pretty decent speed.
Charlie Hayes had a terrific year with the Rockies. Strike call, good fastball. Nice crowd on hand in spite of the 2-hour delay and in spite of all the rain. Amazing. Bouncing ball. Peterson over the second course. Retiring aside to go in the bottom of the first, no score. HoHoKam starting lineup. Willie Wilson in center. Brian Sandberg at second. Timmons in left. Sosa in right. Grant Brown at first. Hernandez at third. Parrott, the catcher. Peterson in short. And Mike Anderson pitching. And the first pitch to Willie Wilson a little bit outside. Wilson very fast. Looked good all spring. Been involved in a couple of rhubarbs. The pitch. And swing fouls the ball. And Mountain View also presents the defense of the Rockies with Young in left, Jones in center, Kingery in right, Garrison, Castillo, Bates, and Van Berkelio at first, Reynoso, the pitcher, and Girardi, the catcher.
Reynoso was signed out of the Mexican League, where he went 20-3 with a 2.60 ERA in 1990. And the Atlanta Braves, always on the lookout for pitching, originally brought him to the major leagues.
Well, you know, I wonder if we scout the Mexican League. Cubs could use some pitchers like Reynoso. He looks pretty good out there.
Well, he had a fine year for Colorado last year, and you look at the spring training numbers this year. This is one good-looking pitcher. He was 12-11 for the Rockies last year with a 4.0 ERA. And in that ballpark, that's saying something.
And for that team to finish above 500, he finished better than his team finished.
He also completed 4 games. That led the staff. He made 30 starts. So it was a quality year for Reynoso, who got an opportunity and really seized the moment.
Ground ball. Van Berkelio tosses to the pitcher in time. Reynoso taking. This guy's name is Ty. The first baseman, Ty, T-Y, Van, V-A-N, Berkelio. Ty Van Berkelio. Pretty good name. He ought to be in the movies. Or he ought to be an officer in Majesty's Army. 1 out. Sandberg gets a big hand. Rhino looks terrific. Great shape. Looks good. Strong. Sound. No injuries. Hot shot. Shortstop Bumble picks it up, throws him out. Castillo. First fumbled and threw out Sandberg, who hit a hard shot right at him.
We saw Vinny Castillo last year, and he hit the ball very well against the Cubs. I can remember a couple of triples high off the center field wall. But Castillo lost his job at shortstop this year, as you see him bobble this one. The new shortstop for the Colorado Rockies will be Walt Weiss, who played so very well for the Florida Marlins last year. And the Rockies picked him up as a free agent, and he will help solidify that infield.
Boy, I think that was a tremendous acquisition by the Colorado Rockies. There's a fine shortstop who knows how to win.
Harry, I don't understand how Florida let him go.
There's a pitch outside. No, couldn't be money. I know it makes a lot, but they drew a lot. And they can afford players like Weiss more than a lot of other clubs can.
It certainly wasn't that Walt Weiss had a bad year, because he hit 266. And when you talk about durability, Walt Weiss played in 158 games, so it was a fine year for an expansion club for Mr. Weiss.
I like the way the Rockies went at it. They put their team together. They had a good offensive club in that Denver ballpark, Mile High Stadium. It's conducive to power hitting. And now, having drawn a lot of people, they're throwing back. Here's a bouncing ball. Throw over to first. And boy, that was an easy inning as Garrison throws out 1, 2, 3. And at the end of one, no score.
This is WGN Chicago.
Caray back in Mesa. And here, leading off, will be Ty Van Berkeley-O, the first baseman. Fouls off the first pitch.
Cubs have made a couple of changes. Doug Glanville has gone in center field, and Eric Yelding now playing second base.
There's a curveball in there. Mike Anderson looking very good out there. We have Glanville in center replacing Willie Wilson. Yelding in second replacing Ryan Sandberg.
Van Berkeley-O played a few years in Japan. Is coming back now to try to resurrect his career in the States.
What did they call him in Japan, I wonder? Thai, I guess.
Probably Thai, yes.
That sounds Japanese. Get out of here. Parent back, makes the catch. So Thai. Van Berkeley-O fouls to Parent. Parent is not a rookie. He's been around a long time.
And watch what Mark Parent does. As soon as he locates the ball, for all you young catchers out there, you throw the mask well away from where you're going to make the play. And Parent has been around a while, so locate the ball, then throw the mask away, and after that, the play is easy.
Here now is Kingery. He's been around a lot. Left-hand hitter, tries to bunt his way on. I tell you, this Cub ball club, boy, if they can get a little unexpected help from their pitching, is really going to be something this year. Here's a high pop fly, going to be caught. Peterson gives way to Yelding, who makes the catch.
What I like so far about Anderson is the fact that you see him having the Rocky hitters off on the front foot. He's changing speed. The Rockies have not gotten very comfortable with his offerings yet. And you'll watch as Kingery, watch the weight shift. He's well out on the front foot, and you can't hit a ball like that. So you get an easy pop-up, and that's just deceptive delivery by Anderson.
Fastball in there, strike call. Jason Bates, who went to school out here, I think. Went to Arizona, Tucson, playing third base for the Rockies. Pretty good hitter.
I'd like to send along best wishes to Craig Harris, a belated birthday greeting. Craig looking on today in Chicago, the son of one Arnold Harris.
Curveballs in there, strike call. 1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 out, nobody on. The ball game. We're in the second. Curveball low. Funny thing, they're playing over in Scottsdale, and the game is over. Was tied 3-3 in the top of the 9th. That's the split squad of the Cubs against the Giants. And it didn't rain a lick over there.
We're talking about 15 minutes down the road, Harry.
Yeah, right.
And they're almost through with the ball game. And Mike Morgan threw 5 innings and threw the ball fairly well.
Mike's looked good all spring.
And that's what it looks like here.
Bouncing ball. This will be easy. 1, 2, 3. We go in the bottom of the second. No score. Abundance of shortstops, 4 good ones. It seems like you ought to be able to make a trade to get a good pitcher.
Well, we do have quality at that position. Now what we have to find out is if the rest of baseball agrees with you and agrees with me that these guys are quality, and then find a ball club, of course, that has the pitcher that we might need. And one of the most difficult things today in baseball is trying to find that matchup where our quality surplus is attractive to a ball club that has surplus in an area where we have a need. Pitching short, Harry, everywhere. Pitching is short everywhere, and and it's going to be difficult to make a deal, but we do have quality players, and I would think there'd be a lot of clubs interested in those shortstops, because we have 4 guys that are big league shortstops.
Tom Trebelhorn discussing the Cubs pitching. Sammy Sosa, seemingly headed for another great year, is at the plate. Hey, we have a kid from Springfield, Illinois, a young man named Nick Faulkner. He moved to Arizona for spring training, is now a beer vendor in right field. I guess he's selling that Budweiser pretty good. There's a smash. Great play. Martin Steele. The throw in time. Nice play. Sammy Sosa, when he hit it, it looked like it would be a base hit because Steele went to his left. Came up with a play nicely.
Good play on both ends. First Castilla showing good range to his left, and then Van Berkeley at first digging it out of the dirt. Castilla cuts across. The throw is off balance, and Van Berkeley just digs it out. And that's what a pitcher likes. Good solid defense behind him.
So one away. And here is Brent Brown. A fine-looking young ball player. Big, strong, left-hand hitter. 2 out of 8 in the spring games. Curveball inside. Nick Faulkner is going home to Springfield, Illinois at the end of the month. Wants to be remembered to his dad, Jim Faulkner, a lifelong Cub fan. Foul ball. Outside third base.
Yeah, that's right.
2 weeks from tomorrow, the first game of the season at Wrigley Field, the season's opener against the New York Mets.
And you can bet you're going to see Dwight Gooden taking the hill for the Mets. And here he threw the ball very well yesterday in a game in Florida. And they're saying that he looks as good as he's looked in a long time.
And, of course, there'll be Mike Morgan for the Cubs. High, up fly. Will it stay in play? Nope. A souvenir. Nice catch by a fan. Behind the Colorado dugout, the third base side. There he is. Bob and June Anderson from Hopedale, Illinois, near Peoria. This is the 25th year of watching the Cubs in spring training. 1 out, nobody on. Fouled it back. Speaking of Peoria, Pete Van Aken. He's got the ball club again this year. And the list of owners of the Peoria Chiefs looks like Forbes 500. Every prominent man in Peoria has a piece of the Peoria Chiefs. So that truly makes it a civic proposition. Bouncy ball foul. Pete will be here next week to see what players he might have for the Peoria Chiefs. This will be the final year of the Cubs' working relationship with the Peoria Ball Club. 1 out, nobody on. Struck him out. Good fastball. Reynoso. A call, 3rd strike. He's retired 5 in a row. And Mike Anderson has not only been 1 base runner in 3 innings. I don't know what.
And also started last season at Colorado Springs, but it only took him 4 starts to show the brass in the major leagues that they could really use him in Colorado. And so he moved on to the Denver club and put together a fine 1993.
1 ball, no strikes. Larry Himes amazed by the fans holding on to see this game, waiting 2 hours in the rain. There's no shelter here. Bouncing ball up the middle. Castillo throws him out. 1, 2, 3 at the end of 2. No score. Eric Caray and Steve Stone as they go into the top of the third. Brooks Kieschnick, the Cubs' #1 draft choice of a year ago, takes over in right field for Sammy Sosa. Vinny Castillo, the shortstop, leading it off. Fastball looking inside. I like the way this Mike Anderson moves the ball around.
I think he has a very lively fastball, Harry, and of course it's set up with a good overhand curve and a slider to go with it.
Curveball's in there. Strike call. Varys has had a little trouble in games. He's been hit pretty good. Will be the next pitcher. What's going on now?
A few of the guys in the Colorado dugout are not very happy with the call of Mike Winters on that curveball. A little early in the spring to get all of this stirred up. Don Zimmer, whose title this year is Special Instructor to manager Don Baylor, and Zim, of course, the world of fans all around baseball. He's been in this game 40 years.
Charlie Hayes has been kicked out of the ball game by the plate umpire, Mike Winters. And he came over with the team on the bus. He said he doesn't have a ride back to Peoria. Castillo, fine-looking shortstop. Curveball low. We're in the third. No score. The youngsters across the street having a little fun playing baseball. There's the peg in time. Hernandez throws out Castillo. One away. And here is Reynoso, the pitcher.
Jose Hernandez has been so impressive this spring that it really complicates the Cubs situation even more. They knew they had 3 quality shortstops, and Hernandez is a shortstop by trade. Tom Trebelhorn wants to see how he responds at third base, and so far he looks pretty comfortable at third.
Base hit by the pitcher, Reynoso. That's the first hit of the ball game. I recall he looked like a pretty good hitter last year when we saw him.
Well, he had a couple of home runs last year, drove in 4 runs, had 8 total hits, so he's showing that it's no fluke as he takes an Anderson offering and drives it right back through the middle. So all pitchers love first ball fastballs, and that's what he got from Anderson.
In the split squad game in Scottsdale, the Cubs are tied with the Giants 3-3, batting in the top of the 10th. I know you've been waiting with bated breath for that score. One out, one on. Swung and he missed.
Eric Young showed last year that offensively he can play in the major leagues after coming from the Los Angeles Dodgers. But he had a lot of problems at second base. And defensively, they're not quite sure what to do with him. So they've made him a utility outfielder, and they believe he is going to make this team.
Takes it high. One final telecast. They'll be next Sunday afternoon. There's a foul ball into the stands. The season opens 2 weeks from tomorrow. Opening up on a Monday afternoon at Wrigley Field. Ooh, a fastball behind his head. 3 balls, 2 strikes. The runner be going, of course, or probably will. Ball full. So Anderson, after giving up a hit to the pitcher, also walks Eric Young. And that brings up Joe Girardi.
Number 7, catcher Joe Girardi.
Runners first and second. Fastball a little bit inside. Ball 1. He's not missing by much, just barely missing. Strike is gone. The count is even. Girardi looking down, giving a sign. Nice crowd on him. Fouled it back. They waited through 2 hours of rain, and they were drenched, soaked. But the hot sun that's shining now has dried their clothes quickly. Some of them will use the fence as a clothes hanger.
The joy of socks.
You gotta call those dirty socks.
Anderson needs a ground ball here to help get out of a jam.
Oh, there's a drive. Foul. He got out in front too far, pulled it. Fortunately for Anderson, that has scored 2.
Now he hung a breaking ball at Joe Girardi, and Tom Trebelhorn is looking on along with Mo Drabowski. You're in a situation with 1 out where you need the double play to get out of the inning. This is the hanging curveball, and Girardi just a little too quick on it. So let's see perhaps if Anderson can stay away and get that ground ball that he needs.
2-2. Ball 3. Three balls, 2 strikes. The runners probably will be going. Girardi, the hitter. High fly ball, deep center field. He'll be caught by Glanville, and he has it. Doug Glanville takes care of Girardi's long fly. Here's Chris Jones now, 2 away. Jones, his first time at bat, bounced into a force play.
Jones was on the roster last year. Hit 273 for the Rockies, but they dropped him from the roster, and he's trying to make this team as a non-roster invitee.
The pitch. Look out. Curveball inside. 1 ball, no strikes. Anderson. Ground ball ought to be easy. It is. Oh, he fumbled the ball. Oh, still good. Brad Brown fumbled the slow roller, backhanded the toss to the pitcher. Anderson covered to retire the side. No run, 1 hit. 2 men are left on base. Steve, I'll be seeing you. I got a hit from the airport. But Tom Brennan will be along at the end of the half inning. By the time he did a little extra work today to catch up, right?
Well, Harry, fly safely, and I'll see you next Sunday.
All right, the score going in the bottom of the 3rd. No score.
To the bottom of the 3rd inning. There you look at Tom Trebelhorn. So far, not much doing in the game today as Chris Peterson leads off. Peterson, the 8th pick in the June 1992 draft, and he's been at Geneva, last year at Daytona. Last year was not a good offensive year for Chris. He hit just .214, but he did show some speed. He stole 19 bases, and he's playing shortstop today in place of Sean Dunston, who was scheduled to start, but decided that apparently the turf was a little too wet for him, and so Peterson getting a look at shortstop. First pitch, fastball over the outside corner from Armando Reynoso. Reynoso, a good-looking young right-hander, originally out of the Atlanta Braves organization. This one chopped foul. This is Mark Parent, not Chris Peterson. Peterson in the on-deck circle, and Parent looking like he's going to be the backup to Rick Wilkins. Parent, a big man at 6'5", right around 240 pounds, and putting together a very solid spring. That fastball misses away, and the count goes to 1-2. You might remember Parent with San Diego. He was the backup catcher there to Benito Santiago. Outfield straightaway and fairly deep, respecting the power of Parent. Another fastball misses the outside corner. The Rockies, like the Cubs, looking for pitching. Randy Varys coming in, and we're going to take a look at him. Varys not having a particularly good spring. Little lazy fly ball hit into right center field. Chris Jones calling for it, and he makes the catch. So 1 out here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. No score, only 1 hit in the ball game, and that coming surprisingly by Armando Reynoso, as Anderson put together a very solid 3 innings. And here is Chris Peterson. Peterson probably going to be starting this year at Double-A. And he looks at a fastball on the outside corner. Reynoso is not overpowering with his fastball, but he does have pretty good location and good control of his fastball and his curveball. That one misses high and away, evening the count at 1-1. Good curveball over the outside corner, and Peterson falls behind 1-2. The Rockies thought so much of Don Baylor, they extended his contract through the 1995 season, so he will be around at least a couple more years. This one fouled off, and the count holds. There's a look at Ellis Burks, who came over from the White Sox, as the Rockies spent some of that money, as you would expect, with a team that drew just about 4.5 million people. They had a few bucks to spend, and they really solidified their offense. That evens the count at 2-2. The addition of Howard Johnson as well as Ellis Burks, they signed their own free agent, Andres Galarraga. Good fastball, just misses. So a little patience shown by Chris Peterson as he runs the count to 3-2. Mike Anderson apparently going to hit for himself in the on-deck circle, but he might be called back. And that misses down. First base runner for the Cubs. Peterson aboard. And Anderson is going to hit for himself. Taking a long look down at Tony Muser, who's the third base coach today. And I would think we're going to expect a bunt here as you take a look at Tony. Jose Martinez, the first base coach. The Cubs in a split squad game in Scottsdale are tied at 3-3 with the Giants, and they're in the 10th inning. Anderson takes a fastball outside and showing a pretty good eye. That one just missed. Just because you get the bunt sign, a lot of guys, especially youngsters, will try to bunt most everything, and if you try to bunt a high fastball, odds are you're going to pop it up. So let's see if Anderson can get the bunt down and put it on the right side of the infield. After close to a 2-hour rain delay, it's beautiful here in Mesa today. You see the mountains in the background and bright sunshine, and surprisingly, very few of the people have left. Larry Himes even amazed at how many folks stayed around through the 2-hour delay. There's a pretty good bunt. Only one play for Reynoso. He makes it to first. And well done by Mike Anderson. For all of you youngsters out there, this is good bunting technique. You try to catch the ball with the bat. Only one play is you see Bates covering at first base. Sacrifice goes 1-4. And Peterson moves into scoring position for Doug Glanville, who took over for Willie Wilson. Glanville getting his first at bat. Fastball misses low and away. Glanville not having a very impressive spring, hitting just 172. He's had 29 at bats. He's driven in 4 runs. Glanville, a former #1 draft choice in the last year of Jim Fry's regime. He fouls this one straight back. Outfield shading him a step toward right center field. And they're not playing him overly deep. That fastball jams him, fouled off to the left side. And Glanville now in a hole, 1-2. He broke his bat, and he'll head on back to get another one. Cubs pretty excited about spring training this year, and they seem to have quiet confidence about this team. Very different than last year. Things seem to be a little more settled, and I think at least to this point they responded to the aggressive style of play that Tom Trebelhorn has shown. They know that he's going to hit and run this year, not necessarily wait back for the big inning. And I think that they feel offensively this team's going to be among the best in the league. The question that the Cubs have is the question that a lot of teams have around baseball, and that is, can they put together a starting rotation that's going to be strong enough to get them through against some of the better teams in the league? But don't forget, the Cubs are in the Central, and Montreal, Philadelphia, and Atlanta are in the East. One pop foul, so the count stays at 1-2. 2 outs here in the bottom of the third. There is no score, only 1 hit in the ball game. And the Cubs now with their first base runner, and that's Chris Anderson aboard at second base. Eric Yielding in the on-deck circle. Good stop by Joe Girardi. We'll take a look at Girardi as he blocks this one. Joe's getting better and better at blocking low pitches, and they've made a 3-year commitment to Girardi. They expect him to catch a lot of games this year for them. That one misses low and away, and the count now full. The Rockies do not have great arms in the outfield. One foul back this way. So the Rockies outfield, the one that Don Baylor expects to start the season with, is going to be Howard Johnson in left, Ellis Burks in center, and Dante Bichette in right. Today in the outfield, we've got Eric Young in left, Chris Jones in center, and Mike Kingery in right. Here you're looking at a very positive man, Tom Trebelhorn. One popped back once again is Glanville, making it tough on Armando Reynoso. Cubs come into play today with the 3rd best record in the Cactus League. And they're doing it offensively. They have scored a lot of runs. Hit hard down the line. Getting by Garrison, and here comes Peterson. He'll score the go-ahead run. Doug Glanville on his way to second base with a double. That's RBI number 5 for Glanville. And the Cubs go on top 1-0. An excellent at bat for Doug Glanville, who fouled off good fastball after good fastball. Finally getting a curveball out over the plate and lacing it by Webster Garrison. Garrison makes the dive, can't come up with it. And that's the kind of baseball you like to see. The bunt was perfect by Anderson. He moved along Peterson to scoring position. And Glanville drives him home. So the Cubs on top 1-0. Eric Yelding taking a fastball low and away. San Francisco did beat the Cubs in 10 innings in Scottsdale. The Cubs dropped that one 4-3. Rafael Novoa picking up the loss. Despite the fact that the Cubs out-hit the Giants 9-3, they did lose that game 4-3 in 10. Fouled off to the right. Count evens at 1-1. And Eric Yelding in a tough position this spring because of the surplus of middle infielders. Yelding hitting .231, has driven in a run this year. Proved to be a very valuable man for the Cubs last year. But if the Cubs have one thing that they have an abundance of, that is men who can play in the middle. They've got Dunston, Sanchez, Jose Vizcaino, and young Jose Hernandez, who's playing third today. Pickoff play at second, and they got him. So the Cubs get a run. The inning ends on a pickoff. They get a run on one hit. They leave no one. And at the end of 3, the Cubs on top of the Rockies, 1-0.
Hi again, everybody. Back with our producer director Artie Harris and the grumpy old man Steve Stone. Welcome back, pal. I'm Tom Brenneman back in Mesa, Arizona. And what's it like to be back at work? You've been off now for 4 or 5 months.
Well, it's wonderful to be back here, and it's wonderful the fact that we could get this game in today, because about an hour and a half ago, Tommy, I wouldn't have given us much for our chances, but here we are in the 4th inning, and here you and I are back together again.
Another season number 5 for this duo, and we certainly invite to be with us all season long here on Channel 9. It's going to be a fun summer. New pitcher now in for the Cubs, right-hander Randy Veras, and he'll be facing Webster Garrison, the Colorado third baseman, to open the inning. Garrison, his first time up, bounced into a fielder's choice to end the Colorado first inning. Cubs an early 1-0 lead. An RBI double with 2 men out by Doug Glanville, scoring Chris Peterson.
Let's take a look at the pickoff. Castilla sneaks him back at Glanville. The throw is perfect, and Glanville is dead to right.
Armando Reynoso picked off 8 runners last season, so he will pay attention when somebody is aboard, and there is a base hit into left field by Garrison. Charlie Hayes was originally in the starting lineup along with Ellis Burks, but after the 2-hour rain delay, Don Baylor figuring be a little bit better to leave those kind of players out.
Nobody's going to remember what happened in this one in spring training, but they will remember who opens the season for the Rockies this year, and he certainly wants it to be the team he envisioned when spring training started. So there's a look at Randy Veras, who had a tough year last year and has not done too well this spring. 0-2, an ERA of 7.88, and an inauspicious beginning here today.
Veras trying to make this ball club, brought on over the winter time by Larry Himes. He got knocked around pretty hard the other night in Scottsdale Stadium against the Giants after the Cubs had opened a huge 9-2 lead, and they were lucky to hang on, pulling it out 9-8. Ty Van Berkeley, his first time up, fouled out to Mark Parent. Two teams in a lot of ways mirror one another. Figure to have a great deal of offense and will go only as far as the pitching. Here's a quick shot down to first base by Parent, not in time to get Garrison. But boy, you look at his Colorado opening day lineup. Guys like Galarraga, Roberto Mejia, Walt Weiss now the shortstop over at third, Charlie Hayes, and outfield with the likes of Dante Bichette, Howard Johnson and Ellis Burks, Joe Girardi behind the plate. That's a pretty good offensive team.
There is no doubt that they're going to score some runs. The only question is, will they stop anybody from scoring runs? And last year the answer was no. Good stop by Parent. You know, Tommy, when you think about that pitching staff last year, you have to go back 63 years to 1930 to find another pitching staff that had as high an ERA for a full season as the Rockies did. And surprisingly, they spent a lot of money, but they spent it all offensively. They didn't bring in anybody to really solidify that pitching staff, and that's somewhat surprising.
Well, I know they went after a few big-name free agent pitchers, but it's a little bit tough in that mile-high air at Denver's Mile High Stadium to talk a pitcher into coming over. There are many guys that enjoy pitching in that ballpark, or at least didn't last season. Back up through the middle, and that ball is going to turn into a double play. It was caught on the fly by Yelding after it got a piece of Randy Vera's glove. How about that?
Well, this is yet again another immaculate deflection. This one off the glove of Veras, right at Yelding. And nothing in the world Garrison can do. He thought that ball was up the middle. So Veras able to get the glove out, get a piece of it, and Eric Yelding right there. Sometimes, Tommy, it's better to be lucky than good, and in this case, worked out pretty well for the Cubs.
That is a liner 1-4 and then 4-3 on the double play. We might not see that again over the next 10 years. That's if you can stay healthy.
Well, after the last few off seasons, I'm not too sure, but I think everything is back on the right track.
Well, it's good to have you back, my friend. Missed you the last couple of weeks.
And you don't have any problem, Tommy, with your weight, but I recommend back surgery if you have a weight problem. I've lost all kinds of weight. It's worked out pretty well as far as the diet is concerned.
Well, that's why I referred to you as grumpy old men. Of course, that's the name of a movie, which is very popular out right now with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. But the fact that when you showed up the other day, you had a belt which probably was about 4 inches thick, and it was pulled all the way to the last loop, and those pants were up around your rib cage.
I was expecting a flood.
Well, you were just trying to keep them on. That's how much weight you've lost. Let's sneak out for a station ID on the Cubs television network.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN-TV, Chicago.
Grounder foul, wide of first by Mike Kingery. Popped up to second base his first time. 1-0 ball game. Cubs in front. We're in the top of the 4th inning. 2 down and nobody on.
Veras, a big man at 6'3", 210 pounds. He's 28 years old, originally born in San Francisco. And he's been around a while. Started his career in 1985 at Helena, Montana.
Breaking ball just missing. It goes to 3-2 on Mike Kingery, a former San Francisco Giant. We'll be back with you here on Channel 9 next weekend, and we can certainly invite you to be with us. It'll be the Oakland Athletics. Tony La Russa, Mark McGuire, Ruben Sierra coming in next Sunday afternoon. Tony La Russa certainly hoping his team can improve upon 93 losses from a year ago. Well, here we go. Our Ask Black trivia question dating back to 1900. Where was the Cubs' first spring training site? California, Alabama, Indiana, or Louisiana?
Well, I'll go with Indiana.
There's a liner to deep right field. Brooks Kieschnick. It's off of his glove. It'll go to the wall. Kingery heading into second base where he'll put on the brake.
That ball was hit very hard, and here in Arizona, the ball just seems to travel. Don't forget, the outfield is wet, and Kieschnick probably didn't get as good a jump on this ball as he would normally, as the ball hits just off the end of the glove, and it'll go as a 2-base hit. The #1 draft choice for the Cubs, and a man that everybody thinks is going to blister the baseball on the major league level when he gets here.
And you can only wonder how long it'll be for a guy like Kieschnick. Good stop there by Parent, keeping Kingery at second base as Jason Bates is the hitter. But Kieschnick, everybody feels he's not that far off.
The one thing you have to wait for, Tommy, is the transition between the metal bat and the wooden bat. And apparently Kieschnick has made that transition fairly smooth. Some guys just never adjust to that. Ty Griffin comes to mind. Another #1 by Jim Fry, who was on the Olympic team, all everything. And not only Jim Fry, but a lot of people felt that Ty Griffin was going to be an outstanding hitter. They knew he'd have some problems defensively, but as it turned out, he never really adjusted offensively, and I believe he's out of baseball.
2-0 the count on Jason Bates. He bounced to second his only trip, and it goes to 3-0. You know, I can only wonder, and a lot of people have taken shots at a guy like Ty Griffin over the years, but they changed him as far as his defensive position was so many times. I can only wonder what kind of adverse effect that may have had from an offensive standpoint. I mean, he never knew where he was going to play one year to the next every time he joined the organization.
Well, Tommy, one of the reasons why they changed him was he couldn't field anywhere. And they were trying to find a place for him that he would feel comfortable. Never really happened, but the worst part about it was not that he wasn't comfortable defensively, was the fact that he just didn't hit the ball.
Here's a floater into shallow left, going to fall in for a hit. And this will tie the game. Kingery racing in, and it is a 1-1 affair as Jason Bates singles off Veras into left field. Third hit of the inning and 4 batters at Veras' face.
There's a little looper to left field. This could have been a monstrous inning because the ball that was hit the hardest was a ball off the bat of Van Berkelio that happened to be deflected into a double play. Otherwise, Veras is in big trouble as it is. The score is tied, and the Rockies about hit the Cubs.
Batter now, the #8 hitter, shortstop Vinny Castilla. He bounced to third, leading off the third. Well, Harry had to get out of Dodge a little early today. You were solo in inning #3, were you not?
Yes, I was, and that will continue when you go back to the radio side in the 6th. That I'm going to have Sid Thrift come over. We're going to talk a little bit about what the organization looks like. Sid Thrift, of course, the assistant to Larry Himes, and between Larry and Sid Thrift and Al Goldis, I believe that the Cubs system is going to be as strong as any system around in the not-too-distant future. There's a look at Al Goldis and Sid Thrift. Al on the left, Sid on the right. These fellas know how to put together an organization. You saw it in Pittsburgh with Sid Thrift putting together a fine ball club that won the East many years. And Al Goldis, of course, responsible for 4 just outstanding #1 picks for the Chicago White Sox. And both Al Goldis and Larry Himes are responsible for a lot of success that the White Sox are having right now. You look at Frank Thomas and Jack McDowell. You look
Robin
at
Ventura
and Alex Fernandez. Yep. Those are 4 horses, all #1s, and pretty good draft picking.
Runner going, Perrin's throw will not be in time. So Veras really struggling through this Colorado 4th. He's allowed 3 hits, a run, and now Jason Bates easily swiping second on him.
You see the high leg kick, and Veras is going to have to make some sort of adjustment. With that high leg kick, you give a base runner 2 or 3 extra steps. And if the base runner has any speed at all, he's going to beat even the best of throwing catchers. That time Bates made it easily.
Castilla dribbler, nice backhanded play by Hernandez. Thought about tagging the runner and doesn't get it out anywhere. Indecision on the part of Jose Hernandez. He initially went for the tag, couldn't get that. And by the time he elected to throw across the diamond, his throw would pull the first baseman off the bag.
Well, what you're watching here, folks, is inexperience at third. Hernandez is a shortstop. Now, you've got to come up with this ball and just fire across the diamond because you really have no chance on the tag. And most good third basemen are just going to pick it up, throw to first. You're out of the inning. But again, when you ask a man to play out of position, as they're asking Hernandez today, he's going to make mistakes like that, mistakes in judgment. He handled the ball well, but by the time he got it across, it was too late, and the Cubs do pick up their first error of the afternoon.
Runners on the corners. Armando Reynoso will bat, and he looks at ball 1 down low. Reynoso had a single into center field back in the 3rd inning. Reynoso has given up a run on just 1 hit. 1-1 game in the 4th, but the Rockies trying to change that. 1 ball and 1 strike now on Reynoso.
Mike Anderson made a mistake with Reynoso, not really respecting the fact that he could hit. Gave him a first ball fastball, and he got the first hit of the game in the third. There's Mike Harkey, a former Chicago Cub. Ellis Burks, a former Chicago White Sox. And Harkey figures prominently in the rotation. But once again, he comes with a disclaimer that he had with the Cubs. If he stays healthy, he will pitch some pretty good baseball.
Reynoso, another swing and a miss. It goes to 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Talking with Joe Girardi before, Tommy, he's saying that Mike Harkey is throwing harder than he's seen him throw in a long time. So perhaps he is healthy. And if he can stay that way, he's going to help that rotation.
Well, we wish him well.
Mike Harkey was a nice fellow over here. He did work hard. He got some good baseball under his belt here, but just could never stay healthy.
2 down, runners on the corners, and a 1-2 to Reynoso. Grounder to short. Peterson the short way, and that'll end the inning. But the Rockies tie the game, getting a run on 3 hits, an error and 2 left. Middle of the 4th in Mesa, Arizona. We had a 2-hour rain delay, but now we're playing baseball. It's a 1-1 game. Go to the bottom half of the 4th inning, a 1-1 game, the Rockies and the Cubs from here at Dwight-Patterson Field, HoHoKam Park, Mesa, Arizona. Armando Reynoso still on the mound. He's only allowed 1 hit, and that was an RBI double by Doug Glanville. Eric Yelding took over for Sandberg back in the 2nd inning, and he looks at a strike.
The all-time record for wins on an expansion team was 13, and Reynoso won 12 last year. And he didn't start the season with the Rockies, so it was a fine year for the young right-hander.
A native of Mexico. And Reynoso plucked out of that Atlanta Braves farm system. There was just nowhere for him to go with the likes of Glavine, Smoltz, Avery. They picked up Maddox, still had Pete Smith around. And finally, now with Smith gone, Kent Merker finally getting his shot. Nice pickup by the 3rd baseman Garrison, and Yelding retired.
Well, when you talk about bad things that can happen to a young player in the spring, you have to look to the Atlanta system and Chipper Jones, who was lost to the Braves for the entire season. Apparently a knee injury and subsequent surgery, and Chipper Jones, who everybody said is a can't-miss prospect and was vying for a job in left field, will be lost for the entire season.
It's too bad. Had a chance to meet Chipper down at Rick Wilkins' charity golf tournament this winter in Jacksonville, Florida. That's where Jones is from. Matter of fact, he went to the same high school as Rick Wilkins. Very delightful young man, and we certainly wish him well in his recovery. Ozzie Timmons bounced to 3rd to end the 1st inning. Timmons had a good season last year in the minor leagues, hitting 15 home runs. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Timmons has really hit the ball as hard as anybody this spring, and the Cubs really think highly of him. And here's looking at you, kid.
You're getting to the point in your life where you really can't refer to anybody other than kid. At your age, this stage of your life, as it goes to 2-1 on Timmons. How does that feel, by the way?
Well, these are the best years, Tommy. See, I know I'm going to make it this long. You don't know if you're going to make it. And as every spring,
there's something to be said for that.
As every spring goes by, it's becoming more and more doubtful.
Brooks Kiesnick is waiting on deck. Timmons with a count of 2 balls and 2 strikes. Reynoso, and this is 4th inning of work. High chopper to short. Waiting is Castilla. And a close play at first. They just did get Timmons. And he wasn't so sure, although no argument comes from first base coach Jose Martinez.
For a big man, Ozzie Timmons gets down the line quickly and will watch the play again. Castilla takes his time and just barely after a double clutch gets it across. Did you know there are great seats available for every home game this season? Call and order your tickets now at 312-831-CUBS or stop by the Wrigley Field box office. Cubs baseball at Wrigley Field, where everybody plays.
That'll bring up Brooks Kiesnick for the first time. Cubs' #1 pick out of the University of Texas a year ago. He was a college player of the year. He did it all for the Longhorns. Big with a bat, played the outfield, and even did some very fine work on the mound as a pitcher. Some were debating whether or not he'd be drafted as a pitcher or is a position player?
Well, the Cubs made it known when they did draft him that they were interested in him solely as a hitter because of his tremendous power.
3 balls, no strikes to Kieschnick.
And I would assume that you would give Kieschnick the go-ahead here. It is spring training. You want to see if he does have the patience to really rip it if he gets a good pitch.
Take a look at the 3-0 delivery from Reynoso. He had the green light and he went waving through the high heat.
Well, there's an example, Tommy. Just because you're given the 3-0 go, it doesn't mean you have to swing at everything. That's ball 4. But again, you're looking at a very young man who will learn a little bit more about hitting as you see a fastball up in his eyes and you can't catch up to it up there.
3-1 chopper to Castillo off the high hop, and that'll do it. 1-2-3 for Reynoso in the 4th. We roll to the 5th. Cubs and Rockies even at 1 apiece. Brenneman back in Mesa, Arizona. A quick chat with Cubs second baseman Ryne Sandberg. And Rhino, what a difference for you personally from this time a year ago. You had the broken hand. You weren't able to do anything, and now you're set and ready to play for opening day.
It's been great. I've really enjoyed camp so far this spring. You know, missing all of last spring training. This is the time of year where players like to come out and take batting practice and field the ground balls, and it's a lot of fun this time of year, getting started again, and I'm really enjoying myself this spring.
What's your read on the ball club? You've been outspoken about some of the things that transpired over the winter, but now that's behind you. You're here. How do you think the ball club looks?
Well, I think the ball club looks fine. Camp has gone great. Guys are working hard. The attitude's good, and that's good at this point of spring training. You know, I think that our style of play has really developed into some wins for us in spring training. The hitting and running, the bunt, the execution. And that's what Tom Trevorhorn is stressing this year is the fundamentals and doing things correctly and executing. And you know, if we do that with the lineup that we've got, you know, defense, infield defense is a strength for us. I think defense in the outfield is going to be highly improved over last year, and we're swinging the bats in the spring, and I think the pitching will be fine. We need a couple of pitchers to step up and maybe surprise us a little bit, and have Randy Myers come in the 9th inning.
Well, the Cubs can get to Randy Myers. They're going to be just fine and dandy if they put him in those safe situations like they did a year ago. As Eric Young strikes out to begin the 5th inning. Back with Steve Stone, I'm Tom Brenneman, live from Mesa, Arizona. A 1-1 game in the 5th.
There's a couple of guys that have looked pretty good, Tom, as far as getting the game to Randy Myers. One of them, Jim Bullinger, has been outstanding.
Joe Girardi, a chopper to short, and Peterson will throw him out. 2 up, 2 down. Well, we asked the Affleck question a little bit earlier. You've had time to think about it. Mr. Stone guessing Indiana. I want to find out if he was fed the correct answer. And the answer, Alabama. Selma, Alabama, quite a historical site as far as the civil rights movement is concerned.
That should show you, Tommy, the credibility that we have with the Affleck question. There is no feeding of the answers.
Let's don't get carried away. Hold on a minute there, brother.
That's one area that's always on the up and up. We can't vouch for many things, but certainly the Affleck question is one of those things we take very seriously.
I'm never around, so I'm not so sure. Generally, you and Harry like to handle that Affleck question. Hey, while we have a moment, happy birthday out to Marilyn Birnbaum in Highland Park, Illinois. Her daughter Tammy here with us today working on our crew. Hope she's enjoying her day. It's a 1-1 game in the 5th. But you were starting to say, Stoney, about the men that will be required to set up Randy Myers this coming season. And you mentioned Jim Bullinger.
He's one of them. Dan Plesac has thrown the ball pretty well so far, and a lot of people feel that Plesac's velocity is right back to where it was when he was having his good years with Milwaukee. He's had 6 outings and hasn't given up anything yet.
There's strike 3 to Chris Jones. Pair of strikeouts in a perfect inning for Barris after getting knocked around in the 4th. We go to the bottom of the 5th from Mesa. Rockies 1, the Cubs likewise. Here from sunny, does that say sunny as in question mark sunny? Your hometown, Valley of the Sun.
Well, it certainly is sunny right now, but it wasn't sunny around 1:30 as you look at Bruce Ruffin, who comes into the ball game. A brand new battery for the Rockies as Eric Wedge takes over behind the plate. Ruffin last year with Colorado put together a pretty impressive year after being pretty much discarded by the Philadelphia Phillies. They gave him enough chances. He really never got over the hump after a very impressive rookie season. But last year he was 6-5 with Colorado, 3.87 ERA, and appeared in 59 games, getting 12 starts. This year they'll use him out of the bullpen.
Leading things off for the Cubs here in inning number 5, young first baseman Brant Brown, first pitch swinging and dribbles one to Bates at second. One pitch, one out. And a good outing for Armando Reynoso. He more than likely will be the opening day starter when the Philadelphia Phillies visit Mile High Stadium in Denver, Colorado. You see the numbers on Ruffin this spring. But Reynoso today, 4 innings of 1 hit, 1 run baseball.
He threw the ball where he wanted to, Tommy, and he got the breaking ball over, and that was one of the things that made him a 12-game winner last year. The fact that he didn't walk too many people in that mile-high rarefied air in Denver. You're going to give up the long ball. There's no doubt about that. You're going to give up the extra base hits in Colorado, but you have to keep your walks to a minimum, and he did that last year.
Jose Hernandez grounded to short, his only time up. Tom Tremblehorn has been manufacturing runs here in spring training this year. You heard the words of Ryne Sandberg, and you look back to that 3rd inning. 1 out walk to Peterson. The pitcher Mike Anderson able to bunt him to second base, and he scored on a double down the line by Doug Glanville.
What I liked about that move, Tommy, was he knew he was going to take Anderson out of the game, but he let Anderson bunt for himself, trying to see if the youngster could get the bunt down in a situation where he could put himself ahead in the game. He did get the bunt down, and it turned into a run.
On the ground again to Bates. Took a funny bounce on him. He still recovered in time, and they're 2 away.
Ruffin, like Brooks Kiesnick, rather, came out of the University of Texas, and he came out of a pitching-rich tradition with Roger Clemens, Calvin Schiraldi,
Greg
Swindell, Bert Hooton, a number of other great pitchers from Texas. And he came out and set the National League on their ear in 1986, 9-4 with a 2.46 ERA. Unfortunately, that sinker just deserted him, and he never came close to that earned run average after that.
Here's Mark Parent making a strong bid to back up Rick Wilkins when the Cubs break camp here and head north to Chicago. He's knocked in, as you see, 7 on the spring, and he's not known as being a particularly good hitter.
Well, I think, Tommy, that you'd have to say at this point that if spring training ended today, it would be Mark Parent as the number 2 catcher. He's done a pretty good job, and he's impressed a lot of folks over here in Mesa.
Ball and a strike on Mark Parent. Parent backed up Benito Santiago many years in San Diego before moving on to Baltimore, where he spent time in AAA last year and was finally called up to the Orioles. And there's a base hit. Only the 2nd of the game for the Cubs against Colorado pitching. Speaking of Baltimore, your former team, that new ownership group has gone out and spent a few dollars for some big sluggers. Although they got bad news yesterday, Sid Fernandez hurt again. He'll miss maybe the first 2 months of the season.
That kind of surprised me, Tom, why they would take a chance on Sid Fernandez. And don't get me wrong, I like Sid as a guy, but he's a man who always had a problem staying healthy. And they spent considerable dollars to get him over there. And once again, he's not going to start the season for them. They spent big dollars on Rafael Palmeiro, who will start the season for them, and Chris Sabo, another guy who I think Cincinnati is going to miss. And a lot of people figure that Baltimore, with the new ownership and drawing like they did after spending $174 million for that team, has a good chance to win this year.
In a very good division. Chris Peterson walked and scored the only Cub run back in the 3rd inning. It's a 1-1 game. We're in the 5th.
And of course, the old Cubby, our old friend Lee Smith, is going to be the stopper. And we'll see how much Lee has left after a pretty decent year last year.
1-1 to Peterson. And it's high and away from Ruffin. 2 balls and a strike. Well, many in Toronto, of course, are concerned about the arm of Dwayne Ward, their sensational closer. But for the first 5 batters in that order, not matched offensively by anybody, anywhere.
There's a lot of people that figure that Pat Gillick, the general manager, is going to go out and acquire a starter before this season begins, because there is one weakness on that team, if you can call any team that's dominated the last few years having a weakness, but there is a weakness in the starting rotation. A few of their guys are getting a little long in the tooth.
Swung on and fouled out of play, and the name that continues to come up is Brett Saberhagen. In fact, Toronto, its organization, sent 4 scouts to a game that Saberhagen pitched earlier this week for the Mets. So that would lend a little credence to that rumor, I think.
Apparently that contract is something to behold when you talk about long-term obligation. And that will have to be considered before you make any move. But he is a quality starter. And the Mets certainly looking to try to trim a little bit off the payroll. Probably wouldn't mind letting go of Saberhagen. However, he's not going to come cheaply. The Mets aren't going to give him away. And Toronto has the luxury of having a fully stocked and very strong minor league system.
1 on, 2 out. 3-2 to Peterson. Runner goes. And again, it's fouled out of play. They might have to turn on the lights at the pace this one's rolling along at. And the lights are not exactly the best in the Cactus League, shall we say.
There you see the fine lighting here at Dwight Patterson Field at HoHoKam Park. I would think they'd be a little less than you'd like to see for a major league game, but nonetheless, we're still a couple hours away from that.
There's ball 4 to Peterson. So the Cubs, after the first 2 men were retired here in the inning, have 2 on. And Tommy Shields is coming up. He will bat for Randy Berez. Berez goes 2 innings, allows 3 hits and a run. Fan 2, and he walked about it.
If you remember Tommy Shields from last year, he had the magnificent spring. He broke with the team, and then things didn't go the way he wanted them to go. But what a spring training he had in 1993.
Shields looked at ball 1.
Invited back once again, only this time as a non-roster player.
Got a lot of fans in the Chicago area, being a graduate of Notre Dame. I think there are a few Fighting Irish fans in Chicago. Just a few. There are a few that you and I call sir.
Yes, just a few. Most of them, actually. I stand corrected, as Tommy Shields was kept on the roster. And we're going to hear from Don Zimmer. I talked with him before the game, and Zim has some interesting things to say. Special assistant to manager Don Baylor.
2 on, 2 out. 2 balls, no strike. Shields waiting the pitch from Ruffin, and here it comes. And it's a strike on the inside corner. Doug Glanville waits on deck.
Shields had a pretty good year last year at Iowa, hitting .287. Showed a little power, driving in 48, hitting 9 home runs, but didn't do much with the Cubs at just 176.
1-1 game here in the bottom of the 5th. Cubs trying to break through with 2 on, and now it's 3 balls and a strike to Tommy Shields.
That's when Ruffin will get hurt, because he does throw a good sinker. When he gets it waist high or above, it flattens out, and it's very hittable. Sinker baller who gets the ball waist high sees all those ground balls he's used to throwing turn into line drives in the gap.
See here with a 3-1 pitch coming to Shields. Ruffin ready, and here's a pitch. Ball 4, so the bases are loaded. Loaded for the man who knocked in the only Cub run of the game back in the 3rd inning when he doubled in Chris Peterson. Here comes Doug Glanville.
And despite the fact that Glanville hasn't had a particularly good spring, he has driven in 5 runs.
Ruffin will toss away the stretch. He'll work out of his regular windup. And there's a breaking ball strike. At 3rd, it's Parent. Peterson at 2nd. Tommy Shields is over at 1st. 2 men are out. The 0-1 delivery. And it's driven into deep left center field. But playable out there for Jones at the warning track, and that'll end the inning. 1 hit, 3 men left. We've played 5 in Mesa. Cubs and Rockies still tied at 1.
You're all familiar with Don Zimmer. He managed the Cubs for some time. Now he's a coach with the Colorado Rockies. And Zim, last year the pitching staff was the big problem. This year your guys are a year older. They're used to Mile High Stadium. In your estimation, will you have better pitching in 1994?
Well, I think without a doubt, Steve, you know, the 5 pitchers that we started last spring with at this time, there's only one of them out of those 5 that are in our starting rotation right now. That is David Need. So after about halfway through the season, our pitching got upgraded a little bit. And going in, the 5 starters we have today are better than what we started with last year. So I think we have a good lineup, and if we pitch halfway decent, I think we got a pretty good ball club.
Everybody says that the key to your team is keeping Joe Girardi healthy behind the plate for 140 games. Can he do that?
Yeah, I think he can do it. He's a great worker. He's probably in better shape right now than anybody on our club, and you know what kind of worker he is. I think the big key in our lineup, I mean, I think Joe will play 140 games, is to keep our center fielder, Ellis Burks, and Hojo in left field, who've had some physical problems in the last 2 years. If we keep those 2 guys healthy, I think that's going to be the big thing on our ball club.
Words of Don Zimmer talking about his Colorado team looking into this season. You know, Howard Johnson experienced a few back spasms earlier in the spring, and the most unfortunate death of his mother-in-law. And he had to leave for 5 days. The first game he came back, he had 2 doubles, knocked in 4 runs, and all is right with the world.
Johnson's hitting .391. He's hit a couple of home runs with 8 runs driven in, and they say he's hitting the ball from both sides of the plate.
Heads up.
So Dave Otto has come on to take over, and Otto having a pretty good spring at 1-0. The ERA .225, on for the 5th time. Tall left-hander, not overly fast, but at times a pretty good sinker.
Makes his year-round home just in the suburbs outside Chicago, so he'd love to stick with his ball club. And the only left-hander you can say for sure, outside of Randy Myers, that will be on this club come opening day is Dan Plesac. There is not a left-handed starter in the Cubs rotation right now. They were pretty much banking on Lance Dixon coming back because he had thrown the ball exceptionally well over the winter time and then here in the early part of spring training. Then last Saturday, preparing for a start in Peoria against Seattle, he strained the groin muscle and has not been able to pitch since.
When they sent him down to the minor league camp, Tommy, there was a rules technicality where you had to send the man down if he's hurt by a certain time. And so the first cut this year then became Lance Dixon, who'll try to work his way back. But as far as left-handers, Blaze Ilsley is throwing the ball pretty well also. He's 1-0. He's been in 3 games, hasn't given up anything. There's been a lot of competition, and unlike other years in spring training, the pitchers, at least the guys fighting for a job in the bullpen, are all throwing the ball pretty well.
1-1 game here in the top of the 6th inning. The Rockies and the Cubs from Mesa, and there is ball 4. So Webster Garrison aboard for the 2nd time. And this in a leadoff variety to begin the Colorado 6th.
And that's the one thing that Tom Trebelhorn and Mo Grabowski have talked to this entire pitching staff about, and that is walks in general, but specifically leadoff walks in an inning. Both of them have told the staff how devastating that can be. And they said that they will not take a pitcher who can't get the ball over the plate north with them. And Tommy, if they take just 10 pitchers, which they've been talking about, then the competition gets really tough.
Well, you have some guys that I think coming into spring training had a terrific shot at making the ball club as far as the starting rotation is concerned. Frank Castillo, but boy, is he fallen on hard times this spring. A 1-2 record in 3 starts and a 12 ERA. He was hammered yesterday down in Chandler, Arizona. Hung around for only a grand total of 3 innings, allowed 7 hits and 6 earned runs.
Well, that's the problem. What do you do with Frank Castillo? Tom Trebelhorn keeps saying he has 400-plus Major League innings under his belt, but the reality of it is that Frank has just not thrown the ball at all this spring, and he was a man certainly considered for either the 4th or 5th starting spot. But to this point, he really hasn't earned it. And I think that in their mind, he really is a big question mark. It's hard to believe when you look over the stat sheet, Tommy. 28 different pitchers have ascended the hill for the Cubs this spring. So they are looking far and wide for anybody who can get somebody out.
0-1 delivery on the way, and it's on the outside corner. A strike to Ty Van Berkelio. He fouled out to the catcher and then hit a bullet that went off the glove of Randy Veras straight to the second baseman Eric Yelding on the fly, and it turned into a double play. You know, everybody keeps saying the Cubs have to go out and make that deal for an established starting pitcher. But there's one thing to keep in the back of your mind about all that, as that one will get through into right field a hit. Garrison will make the turn. He'll come on to third. Kieschnick, his throw will be cut off. So the Rockies runners on the corners with nobody out in this 1-1 game here in the 6th.
From our camera in the right field corner, you'll see the ball coming right at you in your living room. And that's what leadoff walks will do for you. Now runners at the corners, nobody out. The Cubs in danger of falling behind in this one. And Dave Otto, who pitched with the Pirates last year, trying to make this ball club and struggling here through the 6th inning.
Andy Mota going to be the pinch hitter, taking over for Mike Kingery. But to finish that thought for a moment, the one thing to keep in mind is this. The Cubs, if they could find someone that could be a right-handed setup man down in that bullpen, could go with the option of using Jose Bautista as a starting pitcher. That's on the ground at short. Might be two. They'll have to hurry. They turn it, but the run will score. Pretty good looking 6-4-3 double play, and Yelding got hammered at second base by Van Berkelio. 2-1 Colorado lead.
It's a good sinker, and this one didn't look like two, but the fine pivot at second. Eric Yelding staying in. Van Berkelio using the body block, but he can't disrupt the throw. So despite the double play, the Rockies go on top, and there's the leadoff walk for you. It puts the Rockies on top 2-1. As we look at it one more time, Peterson with a good throw, and then a lot of guts shown by Eric Yelding, staying in there to get the relay off.
Base is empty. 2 men are out, and here's Jason Bass. He had an RBI single back in the 4th inning. He's down a strike. But what do you think about that? Bautista perhaps being used as a starter. He did a great job wherever they put him in last year.
It's going to be a lot easier, Tommy, to get a pitcher that can fit into your bullpen than it is to go out and look for a number 2 or 3 starter. Because every team is looking for the same thing. They want the number 2 or 3 starter. They're going to be hard to come by, and Bautista showed last year that he can start. So it's a possibility.
That ball hit hard in the right center field, but Glanville will run it down, and that'll end the inning. But the Rockies break through. A run, a hit, nobody left. The leadoff walk leading to the Rockies run. And in the middle of the 6th, Colorado 2, Cubs 1. Two-one ball game. Colorado in front as the Cubs come to bat in the home half of the 6th inning. It'll be Eric Yelding, Ozzie Timmons, and then Brooks Kieschnick against Bruce Ruffin, and there's strike one. Hey, a reminder, collect all your favorite Cubs players and celebrities on Pepsi Photo Card Days this year. Saturday, April 16th, the first 30,000 fans attending the Cubs Atlanta Braves game receive a commemorative Mark Grace photo card. Compliments of Arby's, WGN TV, and Pepsi Cola. For tickets to any game throughout this special season, call Ticketmaster 312-831-CUBS or stop by the Wrigley Field box office. Ruffin lucky to escape that 5th inning. Retired the first 2, gave up a single, walked Peterson and Shields back-to-back, but got a liner by Glanville to get out of the jam. And he's picked up the strikeout on Eric Yelding.
When Ruffin had his tough times, it was because he couldn't get the ball over the plate. And with Philadelphia, after that fine rookie year in '86, He went 11 and 14, 6 and 10, another 6 and 10, and then a 6 and 13, and one more 4 and 7 record. So Philadelphia finally ran out of patience, shipped him to Milwaukee, and he wound up here in Colorado last year, where he finally showed a little bit of what Philadelphia thought they had way back in '86 when the sinker was good and he struck out a lot of guys. Last year he averaged 8 strikeouts per 9 innings.
Nothing wrong with that.
No siree. That's among the best in the league. He fanned 126 and 139 and 2/3 innings.
1-1 to Ozzie Timmons. Timmons is bounced to third and grounded to short. And there's a good-looking fastball in the outside corner, 1-2.
Timmons a big man at 6'2", 205 pounds. Started in Geneva 1991, so he's still just 23 years old, turning 24 in September, and they feel that he will be a power hitter.
Another ball player out of the city of Tampa, Florida. A few greats, current greats out of that city come to mind immediately. Freddie McGriff, Doc Gooden, Wade Boggs, among others.
He attended the University of Tampa, was a 2-time Division II All-American selection. Played baseball and football in high school at Brandon High. The bullpen getting ready.
That ball into right field where Andy Mota has stayed in the game, and he makes a play. 2 up, 2 down with Colorado leading 2-1 here in the bottom of the 6th, and we'll get another look at Brooks Kieschnick.
This will be a good at-bat for Kieschnick because he's facing a pretty tough left-hander. And the Cubs envision the day when Brooks is going to be an everyday outfielder for them, and I don't think they envision him as a platoon player. They think that he will play every day, so let's see how he hangs in against Ruffin.
Looks at a strike. He wasn't bailing. That front foot wasn't going to first base.
No, that was a pretty good stance.
Wave through that one. He's down 0-2.
Well, from a pitching standpoint, if you're on the mound right now, you've seen Kieschnick twice swing at pitches head high. I believe you have to go up there one more time and see if you can get the 3rd strike.
He grounded to short to end the 4th inning, his only time up today, and they pulled him right there with a breaking ball. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night for the young rookie Brooks Kieschnick. But he'll get another chance sometime down the road. Stoney, good luck, my friend. It's been a little slice having you back.
Yes, and I will see you next Sunday.
2-1 ball game, Colorado.
At HoHoKam Park, where the Cubs trail the Rockies 2-1, and I'm standing with Assistant to General Manager Larry Himes, Sid Thrift. And Sid, you've put together a lot of organizations in your time, starting with the Academy at Kansas City, and we all know about the great job you did with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now you're here with the Cubs and helping out Larry and Al Goldis. And what do you think about the system at this point as far as helping this year and perhaps next year?
Well, it's very evident we've come a long ways in a short period of time. You look on the field and you see the Brooks Kieschnicks and the Browns and all the young players who've come up and performed this spring. It tells you a lot that's going on.
Vinny Castilla leading off the 7th inning. Dave Otto on the mound. And he throws an off-speed pitch at Castilla, swings through. Castilla 0 for 2 today, reached base in the 4th inning on an error. Otto, the 3rd pitcher. Anderson started. Veras came on for 2 innings, and now Dave Otto in his 2nd inning of work. And that evens the count at 1-1. Sid, how long before you think Brooks Kieschnick is going to be able to help this team in the major leagues?
95, I think he'd be ready to play in the major league, Steve, because he has such good physical talent, but above all, he has such great makeup. He has tremendous desire to be the best.
How can you project, Sid, a man using that metal bat in college, how he's going to do with the wooden bat?
Probably the toughest thing in all of sports, Steve, is to try to evaluate a hitter, watch them use this aluminum bat. But the good news is that I know that when they worked him out, that he had a wooden bat, and they saw him hit with a wooden bat. So it wasn't, Al was not operating in the dark. He knew what he was doing.
2-2 count on Vinny Castilla. Chopper, foul. Kerwin Danley called it, other side of the line, and Tommy Shields has taken over at third base.
We've got some good infielders, don't we, Steve?
I would think, looking at this ball club, and I've been here now going on my 12th year, I've never seen an abundance of middle infielders like the Cubs have this year. In fact, I don't know if any team has ever had a stronger middle infield than the Cubs have here in spring training in '94.
I've never seen many quality shortstop, second baseman combinations. You Sanchez, Vizcaino, Sean Dunston, Hernandez, and you look at that Chris Peterson, Tommy Shields. I mean, guys that can really play one position exceptionally well, and some of them two.
Sid, are you forced to make a deal because of the quality you have at shortstop, or can you have the luxury of sitting back, keeping all of these guys, and just waiting to see what comes along?
Well, I think, Steve, you've answered the question in the second part by saying we must make sure we get what those players are worth when we trade one of them, and they're all fine players.
That one popped up to right field, and Kiefnick puts it away easily. And talk a little bit about Brooks defensively. Is right field the place that you're going to play him?
Well, for the present time, I see him playing in right field. I know that Al has talked about the possibility of him learning left field, too, later on down the road, because he has a versatility and he has athletic skill.
Eric Wedge getting his first opportunity, and he's put together a pretty good spring. And he looks at a good sinker for a strike. Wedge hitting .385 this spring, hasn't hit a home run, has driven in a run. He's only been to bat 13 times, and he's vying for a spot behind Joe Girardi, who's the everyday catcher. That one hammered down the line, but foul. Right now, Danny Schaefer is the man they project as number 2. But Eric Wedge bidding for a spot on this team. There was a time, Sid, when Eric Wedge was one of the really highly regarded prospects in the Boston Red Sox organization.
Yes, he played for my good friend Gene Stevenson at Wichita State on those national championship teams. So he had some great coaching in college, and he was their #1 pick in Boston.
Takes a look at a fastball inside, and the count moves to 1-2. Dave Otto, after a tough year with the Pirates last year when the ERA went over 5, trying to make this ball club in the bullpen, and he evens the count now at 2-2. So for the Rockies, 2 runs on 5 hits, no errors. The Cubs 1 run on 2 hits, and they've committed 1 error as we're in the top of the 7th. Cubs lost in a split squad game 4-3 to San Francisco. That game going 10 innings. This one chopped. Easy play for Shields as he throws it across, and 2 gone here in the 7th inning. Sid, you're going to cut between 12 and 15 players today, and most of the cuts seem fairly obvious as the Cubs have invited a lot of youngsters to camp to get a good look at them. When does it start getting tough as far as the real difficult decisions to make for you, Larry Himes, Al Goldus, and Tom Trebelhorn?
I think the closer we get to opening day, it gets tougher, because if no one makes any moves as far as trades are concerned, we have some fine young players and a good team. I think we have probably as good a regular everyday lineup team as there is in the National League. So we have to really proceed with abundant caution. But I look at this, Steve, as on today, for example, when 10 or 12 players go down, it's only temporary.
They will be back.
Some of them going to come back and come back soon.
2-0 count on Eric Young as he takes a good healthy cut at that one. Young 0 for 2, drew a base on balls in the 3rd inning. The Rockies scored in the 4th inning after a base hit and a double play. Kingery doubled. Jason Bates singled him in. And they scored again after a leadoff walk to Webster Garrison in the 6th inning. Going to be a tough play for Shields. Barehanded, fires across, and he gets him at first. Fine play by Tommy Shields. And the Rockies go out 1-2-3. We head into the bottom of the 7th inning with the Cubs down 2-1. Steve Reed on the mound for the Rockies as we head into the bottom of the 7th inning. Steve Stone along with assistant to general manager Larry Himes, Sid Thrift. Sid, you started out.
Okay, now.
you really put together a novel concept with the academy. And Kansas City Royals, probably Frank White was the best product of that academy. You did send some guys to the major leagues. Do you think something that controversial will ever be done again with the economics of the game today?
It has been done. The problem, it hadn't been done in the continental United States. The Dodgers built a complex exactly like ours in Sarasota. In the Dominican, it's been a very, very productive institution, and it really is needed now. You know, baseball, because the way the trends are going in late signings every year, they really need to have a 12-month training program for first-year players. That's the greatest time you lose most of your players.
Well, there you take a look at what's turned into a beautiful day here at Mesa, Arizona. Dwight Patterson Field at HoHoKam Park, and Steve Reed on the mound. Reed 6'2", 202 pounds, out of Los Angeles, California. Was 9-5 for the Rockies last year with a 4.48 ERA. And this one rifled into center field. So Brant Brown greets Reed with a sinking line drive to center. And Sid, anytime you see a sidearm right-hander, as you're looking at in Steve Reed, you would think that the left-hand hitters would have a pretty good advantage because they see the ball all the way.
They really should. The problem is that most of the hitters don't stop to realize that the release point is much, much different. And for a gauge, I talked to some great hitters of the past, and what they used to do with these underhand side-on pitches, they used the knee as a sighting point. In other words, don't look up at the shoulder because that's not where it's coming from.
Let's pause for station identification.
This is America's #1 sports station, WGN-TV, Chicago.
Maxudian hitting, looking out at Steve Reed. And he takes one just off the corner, so he runs the count to 2-0. Outfield shifted a couple of steps toward right center field. Mike Maxudian, pinch hitting for Jose Hernandez. Cubs have the tying run on, nobody out, as Jose Martinez having a few words with Brant Brown. Runner going.
There you go.
Ball is driven through the right side. Perfect hit and run. Brown on his way to third. Maxudian stops at first. And there's an example of what Tom Trebelhorn has done all spring, Sid. He has really brought aggressiveness back to this Cub team.
He keeps things in motion, and I think that really helps the hitters. It helps our base runners, and it also it detracts from the pitching and catching on the other side. Brant Brown, you see, that's a guy 6'3", Steve. He can really, really run. Do you notice that how he goes to third base?
Well, I like the fact that when you have a man who doesn't have great speed, like Maxudian, you get the runner in motion, you stay out of the double play.
Absolutely.
And now Mark Parent has an opportunity to tie up the ball game with runners at the corners, nobody out. Parent 1 for 2, singled in the 5th inning. Flied out in the 3rd. And the two left-handers had very good looks at Steve Reed, and it's going to be a little tougher right now for Parent. So, Sid, you're a hitter in this situation with nobody out.
You got to think right field, Steve, with a right-hand hitter and a right-hand underhand side-on pitcher. And if you think in right field, you're going to protect the outside part of the plate. You're going to move closer to the plate because he's not going to jam you. His fastball's not good enough.
You're looking for something belt high or above to get that fly ball?
Absolutely. You're going to right side, though, right center field. He was trying to do it.
And Reed now ahead, 0-2. Reed spent some time last year at Colorado Springs, where he made 11 appearances and was certainly impressive. Didn't give up anything. 81 innings of work. He fanned 51, only walked 30. And there's a good look at Steve Reed. Soft toss to first. But Maxudian back.
When you think about where he pitched in Colorado where the ball jumps, Steve, that's a pretty good record. That's a pretty good year when you have the stats and numbers to back up what he did there.
Breaking ball sweeps outside. Well, you look at the ERA, and I think that you probably can take a full point off if you move him out of the Mile High City. 4.48 is pretty respectable. And 64 appearances. He was very durable after coming to the major leagues with San Francisco the year before in '92. He started his career with the Giants. And here he is, a Rocky. Chop to the left side. He's coming home with it. The play at the plate. He's safe at the plate. And the tying run scores. Little hesitation on the part of Webster Garrison, and it cost him. He doesn't get anybody.
See, there's an advantage of speed against Steve. Brant Brown is quicker than you think he is, and boom, he's safe.
There you look at the chopper right at Webster. Now he looks to second, hesitates. By the time he goes home, the throw is high, and Wedge can't get the tag on. And you're right about the speed. Brant Brown just slid right under the tag. And the game is tied at 2.
They got a pinch runner, Steve, at first base for a parent. I can't tell who he is yet.
I can't pick up the number either, and it looked like a bunt situation.
Is that Soto running first? It looks like Soto, Mario Soto. That's who it is, Soto. He's a pretty good player, Steve. He played in AA baseball last year for us. As a matter of fact, we moved him to a couple of teams. He did a fine job.
So Soto pinch running, runners at first and second. Nobody out here in the 7th inning with Chris Peterson, who's drawn a couple of bases on balls. Now finds himself 2-0 against Steve Reed. Showed bunt, took it, and the count moves to 2-1. Now, if Tom Treblehorn is confident that Peterson can make a little contact, this wouldn't be a bad opportunity for a hit and run, Sid.
You know what else he could do? He could bunt and run.
He could do that also.
This guy could really bunt.
There's the bunt. And he fouls it off.
When you say that, they always foul it off. But I'd rather for him to foul it on the ground behind him and pop it in the air for a double play, wouldn't you? He had him going, too. You see, make sure he was going.
I think that Tom Treblehorn would agree with you there. So the count moves even at 2-2. 2-5-0 for the Rockies, 2-4-1 for the Cubs. Cubs trying to pull ahead here in the 7th inning and make a winner out of Dave Otto. Tommy Shields on deck. And there's a bunt, and it's a good one, and nobody's going to field it. Excellent bunt. It'll go as a base hit that loads the bases. So with the advantage of having Sid Thrift with his knowledge of the personnel.
I was saved with that great bunt.
He does save you with a great 2-strike bunt. And how about this one? Take another look at it. The toughest of all bunts to get down with 2 strikes. He shortens up, puts it down perfectly, and Reed can't do anything with it. So the Cubs have their 5th hit. The base is loaded, nobody out, and Tommy Shields with a chance to do some damage. I think Reed is more surprised than anyone as he goes over and just puts the ball in his pocket. So the Cubs with 3 singles and a fielder's choice here in the 7th.
That was a pitch you got to hit right there.
First ball fastball, and Shields takes it right down the middle. Doug Glanville on deck, and he has an RBI double back in the 3rd inning. That one fouled off, and quickly Shields in the hole, 0-2. Jose Vizcaino sends up word that he'd like to say hello to his wife. Looks like Jessica, who is in California waiting the birth of their 2nd child.
It looks like Jessica to me. Anyway, congratulations when it happens.
Good breaking ball, and Shields just frozen at the plate, takes strike 3.
See, that's why it's so important. You got to think right field. If you're thinking right field, and you're 2-strike hitting, you don't take that pitch, do you?
Let's watch it again. It's a good breaking ball, and it just freezes Tommy Shields. It leaves it up to Doug Glanville. Still just 1 out here in the 7th inning with the score tied at 2-2. Glanville took over in the 3rd inning for Willie Wilson, and he's 1 for 2 today. Hit the ball very hard back in the 5th inning, chasing Chris Jones back to the warning track. And he looks at a fastball low and away.
I had a great conversation several years ago, Steve, with Mike Smith in a situation with the bases loaded, 1 out. He said he had played in the major leagues, made all-star teams. He never learned how to hit in this situation because he was always trying to get fly balls and runs batted in. He said that what he did, he changed to hit the ball as hard as he could to the second base, try to hit it right at his second base, and then he's learned how to hit the ball, stay out of the double play, and not look foolish on breaking stuff.
Worked pretty well for him.
You know, I said, I said it's pretty good for him. He hit him in the right field seats. See that? You can't give on a guy like this. This is why the guy's 9 and 5. You've got to think right field. You've got to think right side.
Glanville now in the hole, 1 and 2. This is a big at bat for Glanville and an even bigger at bat for Steve Reed. Score tied at 2. And a sweeping breaking ball misses low. That evens the count at 2-2.
He's bailing bad, Steve. He's pulling off bad. I know one thing. If you were pitching, I know what you throw right now.
One more of those sidearm curveballs over the outside corner, and it's see you later. Let's see if Reed can get it there, or maybe he'll miss inside.
He did.
Ground ball to short. It looks like 2. Over to second for 1. Back to first. And the Rockies out of the inning with the score tied at 2. But the Cubs get a run. They get 3 hits. They leave 2. And at the end of 7, with Steve Reed pitching out of a jam, the score is tied at 2. Bross takes over, and Bross has had a very tough spring. No record, a 16.62 ERA on for the 5th time. And there's a look at king-size Terry Bross. The game tied at 2. The hits even at 5. The Cubs have made the only error in this one. And Bross trying to do something to turn it around. He's in competition for one of those spots out of the bullpen. But he really hasn't done much to distinguish himself this spring. So Steve Stone, along with Sid Thrift here at HoHoKam Park. Harry Caray winging his way to Las Vegas as we speak. Took off a little early in this one. He's got a little award ceremony to go to. And Mike Maxudian stays in the game behind the plate. So the new battery, Bross and Maxudian. And Sid, what did you expect out of Terry Bross when you brought him over here?
Well, Terry, you know, was a great basketball player, Steve, at St. John's, and played very little in college, and the Mets drafted him, and he had a couple sensational years under Clint Hurdle at Jackson AA baseball, and then he started floundering around. Last year, he ended up in Phoenix. He has an outstanding fastball and good breaking stuff. He just needs confidence, and we'd hope to give him a chance here to see what he would do. He's a 6-year player, and he's sort of like Varys. He has good stuff, and we just have to get them used to our situation.
Ellis Burks is getting a look as a pinch hitter today. Ellis Burks, the free agent, coming over from the Chicago White Sox, and is going to be the everyday center fielder. Now, Ellis was supposed to start in center field today and hit in the 3 spot, but with all the rain, and we had a 2-hour rain delay, they scratched Burks. Ellis has had some physical problems, but says that he'll be ready to go. As you look at the numbers for the White Sox last year, 17 home runs, 74 driven in, with an average in the 270s, and that was a pretty impressive year. You kind of surprised that the White Sox let him go, Sid?
I'm not surprised. I'm shocked. This guy's an outstanding center fielder, and now he's finally physically sound, and he's an all-star player.
Well, the White Sox took a chance on him last year because he came over as somewhat damaged goods, and he showed them that he was healthy enough to play.
Sure.
And then you get him healthy, and you let him go.
Yeah.
Well, I think the Rockies made a very good addition to their ball club in Ellis Burks.
They also tell me he's great in the clubhouse. He's a leader, and that's what you need, too. It's more than just playing baseball when you get a player on your team.
Well, he comes from a ball club that won it last year, and that certainly can help the Rockies. They need all the experience they can get. They added Burks, and they added Howard Johnson, another guy from a winning tradition with the New York Mets, and a 1-2 count on Burks as he looks at a changeup down. So that evens the count at 2-2.
I think Bob Gebhardt and his staff have done a good job, Steve, in assembling a team this strong in that short a period of time.
I think the only thing I'm surprised about, Sid, was they spent a lot of money bringing in offense on a team that desperately needed pitching.
Right. Well, I guess pitching is hard.
Good fastball for strike 3. Now, the one man they did add, Sid, was the man that the Cubs let go, and that was Mike Harkey.
Right. And, you know, that's the scarcest thing of all, Steve, is good pitching.
Well, there's a blazing fastball over the outside corner, and Ellis Burks couldn't pull the trigger. He looks back at Mike Winters, and Mike Winters could pull the trigger, and Burks is out number 1. So Chris Jones comes up. He took over for Burks when Burks was a late scratch, and Jones is 0 for 2 with a base on balls. Fouls the first fastball off.
Well, you know, young Bross throws the ball in the 90s, Steve. It's a matter of knowing when to throw what pitch and throwing it in the right place. You know that. You're a great pitcher yourself.
I would assume, Sid, looking at what he's done this spring, you would probably be starting him off in AAA.
Well, he certainly deserves an opportunity because he has really tried so hard and he's pressed so badly here. He's had one good outing, and the rest of them are just so-so.
Surprising thing for me when I look over the numbers, number 1, Jim Bullinger has been outstanding. Dan Plesac seems to be the Plesac that everybody thought he was going to be when he got him over here. He looks like he's got that fastball and slider back from his heyday with Milwaukee.
I have a feeling that Plesac's going to have a great year, Steve. I just been talking to him and seeing his mental approach. He's got fine physical ability.
Good 0-2 fastball right under the chin of Chris Jones, and from a pitching standpoint, you don't mind seeing that on occasion.
That's a real wake-up call. That thing's 90+ miles per hour, and it's right up around that whistling device of yours. It makes you think twice.
Ross comes right over the top with a blazing fastball and knocks Jones back off the plate. Off-speed pitch, ground ball to second base. Yelding has it easily over to first, and quickly 2 up and 2 down.
I think that was a split finger, Steve. It broke his bat.
Webster Garrison getting a chance today to get a few at-bats. Charlie Hayes was originally in the starting lineup. Hayes had the big year last year for the Rockies. He hit .305. But once again, with the wet conditions, they didn't want to risk Charlie Hayes, so Webster Garrison getting an opportunity, and he's 1 for 2 with a run scored in the 6th inning.
Right there, split finger again.
That one misses low and away. The count 1-0. Charlie Hayes last year not only hit .305, hit 25 home runs, and tied Andres Galarraga for the team lead with 98 driven in. We haven't even talked about Dante Bichette, the man in right field who probably lost 15 pounds from last year. Bichette had a great year. 21 home runs, 89 driven in, and 28 doubles. So he hit .310, and the Rockies will have some offensive outfield if Howard Johnson comes around and stays healthy. Johnson, Burks, and Dante Bichette in the outfield, left or right. Line drive, left field, hit very hard. Timmons can't get to it, over his head, and one hops the wall. And Garrison goes into second, so he's made the most of his opportunity today, going 2 for 3. Take another look at it. This is a high fastball, not the spot you want to throw it in. And Garrison just turns on it, drives it over the head of Timmons, who really has no chance. So an opportunity for Ty Van Berkelio. Van Berkelio hit the ball very hard in the 4th inning. Lined it right off the glove of Veras. He lined into a double play, and that really saved the Cubs in the 4th. The Rockies scored 1. They could have easily scored 3 or 4. Van Berkelio singled in the 6th inning, and he's 1 for 3. And that one dips low. And Randy Myers going to pick up an inning today. Talked to Randy before the game, and he said that he only needs about 6 appearances in the spring to get ready. He says he throws a lot on the sideline, works very hard. The man with 53 saves last year, the 2nd highest total in history. Putting himself in position for another big year. Takes a fastball right down the middle. So in this situation, Sid, I know you're in spring training. You have the go-ahead run at second base. You're in the 8th inning. You got a left-hand hitter up. Are you careful with him with first base open? You got a right-hand hitter due up next. Or do you go right at it?
I think if I'm Bross, I'm going to go right at this guy. And I talked to him about his pitching. I think he needs to rely more on his fastball. That's a pretty good breaking pitch right there, Steve.
That one missed low and away, and once again you have Andy Mota, who came into pinch run in the on-deck circle. He's only been to bat 3 times this year. And not to say they couldn't call back Mota to put in the left-hand pinch hitter if you do indeed lose Van Berkeley. 2-1 count on Ty Van Berkeley. This one fouled off to the left. So count even to 2-2.
Threw that ball by him, Steve. Now he's got him set up 2-2. He can do a lot of things. The one thing he can do, he's got the good split finger. If he throws a split finger down, he's got the third out.
Is he one of your hardest throwing pitchers in his staff?
I believe so. He throws over the 90s. So does Randy Veras. I think Anderson probably has the best curveball on the staff.
I noticed, Sid, you brought in 28 pitchers. You've used 28 pitchers in games.
Yeah, I think Tom Trebleton and the staff have done a great job of distributing the innings pitched to all those pitchers, Steve. You look at the sheet and you'll see has a breaking ball, but there wasn't the right kind of breaking ball.
Drive center field. Here comes the throw. Play at the plate, not in time. Maxudian can't hold on to it, and the Rockies go up 3-2.
That was not the split finger. That was a little old flat slider. I know it says hit me after he threw the fastball by him. That's not good pitching.
And this one rifled into center field. Van Berkeley getting the job done. Drives in a run, his 5th of the spring. Garrison scoring easily from second base, and on the throw, the trailer, Van Berkeley going into second. So Bross continues to do what he's done all spring, and that is giving up runs.
Well, he gave him up after 2 out, too. He puts away Burks, and he gets the next guy on a broken bat, and then he lets it. And this, I think, it's a matter of concentration. You know, I think, Steve, as a pitcher, I always judge him on what to do after you get 2 outs and nobody on.
Well, if you're looking for a late inning reliever, this is not a real impressive sight.
No, you want to get that third out. I think a lot of pitchers lose their concentration. They get carried away with themselves. They get careless. And the first thing you know, the barn door is open and you can have trouble getting it closed.
Andy Mota staring out at king-size Terry Bross. Outfield straight away for Mota. Only his 4th at bat of the spring. Chopped foul. Sid, you're involved with a couple of ball clubs at Kansas City and Pittsburgh that trained in Florida. Now, of course, you're here in Arizona, and if you have your choice, where would you rather train?
Arizona. I was here with Oakland in 75 and 76, and the rest of my years were in Florida, but I like Arizona for a number of reasons. Number one is that the climate is more stable. Second thing is the travel is much, much better. In Florida, you spend 3 or 4 hours back and forth to play baseball games. You waste a lot of time in travel.
Well, I think the weather year in and year out is a little more consistent also in Arizona, which is my preference. A swing and a miss.
That was a good split finger there.
And the Rockies go down, but not before they get the go-ahead run. 1 run, 2 hits, 1 left, and at the end of 7 1/2, the Rockies lead the Cubs 3-2. Cub fans, entertain your clients and guests in luxury seating at the greatest ballpark in all of baseball. Rent a Cubs mezzanine skybox at beautiful Wrigley Field. Each box includes 15 tickets and 2 parking passes. Plenty of game dates are available, so call 312-404-4155 and reserve your skybox date today. New pitcher on the mound, Mike Munoz. That's what he's done this spring as we head into the bottom of the 8th inning. The Cubs trail by 1. And Eric Yelding looking out, chopping the ball. Off the glove of Garrison. It goes for a base hit and a good way to start the 8th inning. Mike Munoz started the season last year at Detroit, where he was 0-1. Went to Colorado Springs, eventually winding up with the Rockies, where he was 2-1. And we'll take a look at the chopper off the bat of Eric Yelding, who gets his first hit of the day. Garrison was in, and that's the advantage, Sid. When you have a man with speed, you bring in that third baseman, You chop the ball, it turns into a base hit, what would ordinarily be a routine out.
No question about it. If you notice, too, old Eric took a good turn at first base. He was looking for 2.
Ozzie Timmons 0 for 3, and he looks at a fastball for a strike.
Ozzie's due, Steve. He's hit the ball hard all spring.
See what he's done so far. And for a youngster, Ozzie Timmons is a most impressive ball player. He'll need a little more seasoning yet, but you envision the day, Sid, when he will be wearing a Cubs uniform, I do believe.
There's no doubt about it. He's made great improvements, Steve. He had a good year in Orlando, hit 18 home runs, and went down to Puerto Rico, and I think he was the 2nd leading hitter in the league. So he's come a long ways in a hurry.
Dunston originally slated for the 3 spot, but with the rain, he was scratched early, and Timmons was moved into the number 3 spot. This one chopped foul. You know, Sid, evaluating the division the Cubs are in, you look at the Central, they don't have a super team. In the West, you've got the Giants outstanding. In the East, you have Philadelphia. You've got Montreal, you have Atlanta. And I know that a lot of people are not really rating the Cubs all that highly. I do believe with the division that the Cubs have got not only a chance of contending, but a chance of winning that division this year.
I do too, Steve, and I'm not an eternal optimist. I'm a realist, I hope. And I believe with our everyday lineup, and I think our pitching, everybody's always talking about, well, we have pitching, and I think we have an underrated, unknown pitching staff. Willie Banks probably has as much God-given talent as anybody in the National League. And Steve Traxel, a newcomer, and I think we'll be fine with Morgan and Guzman. And somebody will be that 5th one, whoever it is, it'll be someone.
Well, I think if you look at the schedule, you're really not going to need a 5th starter until probably the 23rd, 24th of April. And although you'd love to have them coming out of spring training, I don't think it's essential. I think 10 pitchers and maybe another infielder or outfielder probably will be the way that we'll see it go. As there's a chopper to short, looks like an easy 2 over to first. And Timmons has grounded into a double play, 6-4-3. So just the thing you're not looking for is, unfortunately, the thing you get. We'll watch it again as Castilla goes to Bates, on to Van Berkelio, and you couldn't have asked for an easier double play than this one. We haven't seen a whole lot of Mark Grace this spring, Sid, and just exactly how is the health of Grace?
He's doing fine, Steve. He's just being very cautious with his throwing arm. I think he's actually hit better this spring by far than he did last year. You recall he had a tough spring.
Yes, I do, and I know you have an interested spectator looking on today.
Yeah, my 2-year-old grandson is his first real spring training, and his name is Ryan. I want to say hello to Ryan, and also my mother, who's a big fan of you and Harry.
Well, we appreciate having you up here. Certainly you add a lot, and for all of you who didn't hear before, Harry is on his way to pick up some sort of an award in Palm Springs, and he left the ball game about the 3rd inning, but he's doing fine. So Sid was gracious enough to come on up and join me for the latter 3 innings.
Well, now all we need is a couple runs, Steve.
Certainly we could use that as the Cubs trail 3-2 here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Munoz evens the count at 2-2. So the Cubs, who lost a split squad game to San Francisco 4-3 in 10 innings, are trying to avoid a double dip loss here today. There's a good look at Mike Munoz, 6'2", 200 pounds, out of Baldwin Park, California. Kieschnick fouls it off.
He hung in that good on that breaking ball, Steve. Good swing at that pitch.
Brant Brown in the on-deck circle if Kieschnick can keep it alive. Outfield straight away and fairly deep. Ooh, that one just missed down. Sid, you made a lot of draft picks, and one of the guys you drafted is a man by the name of Barry Bonds. Would you say he's your best?
He's hard to beat. There's been a lot of Al Goldis and Larry Hines made great drafts in Chicago White Sox consistently year after year, but Barry Bonds is probably the greatest baseball player alive today.
Kieschnick traces one in the dirt. The Cubs get a hit, but no runs. And at the end of 8 full innings, the Cubs trail the Rockies 3-2. We're heading into the top of the 9th inning, and a familiar man on the mound for the Cubs, Randall Kirk Myers, who had a big year last year. And Randy Myers coming in to pitch the 9th inning. Myers out of Vancouver, Washington, 2-4 last year, 3.11 ERA, 73 appearances, and 53 saves. So Randy, who says he only needs 5 or 6 appearances to get himself in shape, is making his 4th appearance of the spring, and he rifles a fastball by Jason Bates, who takes it for strike 1. That's what Randy has done this spring so far. And Myers, who keeps himself in unbelievable shape, is just about ready to go. Line drive. This one hit hard. Goes down into the corner. Bates around first base, and he'll wind up at second, and he is 2 for 4 today. So Bates making a pretty good impression on Don Baylor and Don Zimmer. Trying to make this ball club as a utility player. And he rifles the ball down the left field line. Bates now hitting .306 this spring. As the ball rolls around in the corner. And the Rockies, who are already lead by 1, trying to add to that lead. Vinny Castilla comes up, and he'll be trying to hit the ball to the right side against Randy Myers. Outfield shading him a couple steps toward right center. And Castilla looks at one up and away. Castilla 0 for 3. He will be a backup after starting at shortstop last year. The Rockies acquired Walt Weiss as a free agent, and Walt Weiss had a fine year last year with the Florida Marlins and will solidify the inner defense for the Rockies this year. Well hit, well done by Castilla. He gets the job done and moves across the base runner. So man at third, now 1 out. And a good piece of hitting by Vinny Castilla. And this shows you good, solid, fundamental baseball as taught by Don Baylor. Castilla thinking right field all the way. And Eric Yelding playing him that way, had the ball hit to him. And now it forces the infield in at all 4 positions. So Eric Wedge, who came up in the 7th inning, grounded to third base in his only at bat today, looking out at Randy Myers and trying to get the run home. He looks at one up and away. Outfield straight away and fairly deep. Wedge doing a pretty good job this spring. And he looks at a fastball for a strike. Wedge made 3 stops last year at Central Valley, at Colorado Springs, and with the Rockies, where he only had 11 at-bats last year and hit 182. Good slider over the outside corner, and that runs the count to 1-2 as Randy Myers trying to pitch out of a jam. The Cubs will make a cut after the ball game today, and somewhere between 10 and 12 of these young hopefuls will be sent to the minor league camp. That one high and away. That runs the count to 2-2 with 1 out here in the 9th inning. Cubs out hit 8-6. They trail 3-2, and the only error of the game made by the Cubs. This fastball misses high and away, and that runs the count full. Eric Young in the on-deck circle, the infield in. Here's the payoff pitch, and he swings through it. Strike 3. Blazing fastball by Randy Myers. This one out of the strike zone, and Eric Wedge helps him out. High fastball, he throws right by him. So that brings Eric Young up, who's 0 for 3 with a base on balls. And the infield back to its normal position. It Shields, Peterson, Yelding, and Brown in the infield. Outfield of Timmons, Glanville, and Kieschnick. Maxudian behind the plate. And Randy Myers on the mound with a strike 1 count against Eric Young. That slider just misses the outside corner. That evens the count at 1-1. Another breaking ball misses away, running the count to 2-1. Mike Munoz, the pitcher, on deck. That one fouled straight back. Our last telecast of the spring is next Sunday, 1 week from today, when the Cubs entertain the Oakland A's right here at HoHoKam Park in Mesa. So join us at 2 o'clock Chicago time and get ready for the opening of the season just a couple of weeks away. That breaking ball fouled away, so the count holds at 2-2. Cubs having a pretty good spring this year. They're third in the Cactus League. And they know that they're going to hit the ball. The question, and there are a couple of them, is who's going to make the staff in middle relief? Who is going to be the fifth starter? And will Larry Himes put together some sort of deal before the end of the spring? That one fouled straight back. So a few question marks in what really otherwise has been a very quiet camp for the Cubs. Not a whole lot of controversy, not a whole lot of problems down here. The Cubs will have a fine offensive team. And right now, there hasn't been a whole lot of movement as far as the trades of anybody. Attendance today comes in at 8,845, and on a very rainy day, that's a remarkable number. Breaking ball just misses outside. The fans wanted Mike Winters to ring him up, but he said it hooked around the plate. So a full count now on Eric Young. Big pitch by Randy Myers. Just missing inside, ball 4. So now runners at the corners, but 2 outs, and Mike Munoz, the pitcher, due up. And he is going to hit for himself. Following the game, WGN will go back to regular programming. And here we are in the top of the 9th inning. So Munoz looking out at Myers. And he takes a fastball for a strike. Only thing you'd have to worry about here is Myers probably getting a little too much on one of those sliders and it winding up in the dirt. Mike Maxudian doing the catching. And another blazing fastball, strike 2. 0-2 count on Munoz. And Myers 1 strike away from getting out of this 9th inning and keeping the 1-run deficit. Cubs trail 3-2. Fastball, strike 3. Myers out of the inning. So the Rockies get a hit. They leave 2. They don't score, and the Cubs come to bat in the bottom of the 9th, trailing 3-2. To look at Mike Munoz. Cubs trying to avoid the double dip loss today. Cub fans, even in spring training, having their rally caps on. And let's see if they can get something going. Brant Brown 1 for 3 with a strikeout and a ground out. He singled and scored a run back in the 7th inning. Tom Trebelhorn looking on, and there's a look at Mike Munoz, who's entrusted with a 1-run lead. Breaking ball misses inside, and many of the fans have gone home. A crowd that numbered over 8,800 today on a very rainy day. We suffered through a 2-hour rain delay, but started playing under bright sunny skies. And that evens the count at 1-1. Outfield straight away for Brown. And a good off-speed breaking ball, and Brown swings through it. Munoz, out of the Detroit system, makes his home in Covina, California. He's trying to make this team out of the bullpen. That fastball just missing inside, and the count evens at 2-2. one chopped to the right side, easily played, and one down. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Chicago National League Ball Club, which has the right of approval of the announcers and is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or the use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Chicago National League Ball Club is prohibited. One down, and Mike Maxudian steps up, and he had a base hit in the 7th. Cubs got a run on 3 hits in the 7th inning, and he looks at a fastball for a strike. The Buick summary. You see the score 3-2. Glanville RBI double in the 2nd. Bates 2 for 4 with a double and an RBI single, and Van Berkelio 2 for 4 with 1 RBI. Maxudian looks at a fastball, strike 2. Munoz looking pretty impressive. Cox in the on-deck circle. That one just missing outside. Outfield straight away and fairly deep, and that one taken right back up the middle, a base hit. So Mike Maxudian 2 for 2 today, and he keeps it alive. Darren Cox, who is bidding to make this ball club as a backup catcher, he came over in the trade for Chuck McElroy, and he comes on to take a look at Mike Munoz. So Darren Cox with 1 out, and an opportunity to keep this game alive. Cox hitting .250, 4 for 16 with a home run and 3 runs batted in. Looks at a breaking ball for a strike. Cox came over with a reputation of being an outstanding defensive catcher. Man with a very good arm and a bit of a suspect bat, but he's hit the ball fairly well this spring. And the outfield playing him straight away and fairly deep. This one sliced foul down the line. Long run for Andy Mota, but it drops out of play. So Cox in a hole, 0-2. Chris Peterson on deck, and he's been on base all 3 times with a couple of walks and a base hit. Stays alive, and a young man has a souvenir, and a very happy young man caught the ball on a fly. He might have some sore hands, but nonetheless, he's got a souvenir. In fact, he's got a few of them, 3 of them to be exact. No wind at all as the flags limp atop the pole, and strike 3 called. Cox takes a fastball right down the middle. So the Cubs now down to their last out. And that last out in the person of Chris Peterson, hoping to keep it alive. Tommy Shields on deck if Chris can get something going. He walked and scored the first Cub run in the 3rd. He drew a base on balls in the 5th, and he singled in the 7th. Peterson playing in place of Sean Dunston, who was originally scheduled to play, but with the wet conditions, he was scratched. That one in the dirt. And a very good block. Eric Wedge behind the plate. Rockies also having a very good spring, well over 500. They came in at 10-6. And they, like the Cubs, are hitting the baseball well. Good fastball for a strike on the inside corner. Count even at 1-1. That one gets by Wedge. Pitch in the dirt, and so the tying run moves to second base. In the person of Mike Maxudian, we'll take a look at Eric Wedge. This one looks like a fastball that turned over, and Wedge can't get to it. Now, Wedge is not known to have the great defensive skills. And the Cubs have the tying run at second base. 2-1 count on Chris Peterson. Cubs trail 3-2. They've been out hit 8-7. Maxudian does not have the best speed around. This one chopped in the infield, and this should be it. Over to first base, and that's the ball game. So the Cubs, who have hit so very well all spring, find themselves on the losing end of this one, 3-2. A good job by Mike Munoz. Unfortunately, the Cub offense just not really in appearance today. We had a lot of rain before the game and a few scratches. And the shock troops of Doug Glanville, Eric Yelding, Ozzie Timmons, Brooks Kieschnick really couldn't get it done. So the Cubs drop a twin bill today. They dropped one earlier to San Francisco, losing 4-3 in 10 innings. And they lose to Colorado today, 3-2. So we'll be back with the wrap-up after these messages. And there's the Budweiser play of the day. Van Berkelio drives the ball into center field. Here comes Garrison. They won't get him. That's the go-ahead run. And that turned out to be the winning run. And that's the Budweiser play of the day.